might be working. The circle of life continues, as they say. Come on in, everybody. Hopefully this thing's going to be working properly. Let me know when we have arrived. There we go. Let's switch over to the Facebook realm. We might see if we can make this one work on Facebook. So everybody put a bunch of AI emojis in the chat. If you've seen an AI emoji, put it in the chat. We're going to see if we can initiate the Facebook stream. We haven't done one of those the last few lives that we've been on, and so let us see. There we I think it's available. Well, there we are. Come on in, everyone. Let us know how you're doing. I want to say officially welcome back to the multidimensional trailer park. I have no idea how long it's been since we last did a live. Part of me thinks it's been about 1 week. However, like a lot of you guys know, due to the nature and the, just the ongoing, whether it's a time dilation or a time acceleration or just great alterations within our kind of current multidimensional time stream, sometimes it feels like months. Sometimes it feels like it's been minutes, but before we get started here today, let me know, how are you guys doing with the current passage of time? Because as far as I can tell, it is now currently March of 2023. Seems like only last week we were talking about how, 2022 was ending and there was going to be all sorts of new events and wildness and, timed, world changes and who knows, viral madness, whatever it is. We kind of forecasted a certain amount of things, but just like, with every year that comes around, kind of like 2020, for those of you guys that remember 2020, remember when 2020 started? I know I've said this exact same thing in the past. Some of you guys will remember it, but remember when 2020 started? Everyone was like, that's it, 2020 vision, man. This is it. This is, this is the future. This is the next stage. This is a big, moment. Boom. There was like a lot of talk around it, right? And then lo and behold, what nobody saw coming. I mean, technically it was forecasted, it was forecasted in the ancient murals, of its arrival, and its arrival came, and nobody saw it in the immediacy of the moment, maybe a select few on the earth plane, but we got to live with our sort of viral madness, which kind of set the tone for the ongoing stages and rising and falling of upheavals of society since then. And here we are, just exactly 3 years later. For those of you guys that remember, it was right around this time 3 years ago when I think that time has passed, rather technically, like the sort of date range has passed, but we are right in the window of time where 3 years ago we were going into the store and there was no toilet paper. You guys remember that? In my opinion, that toilet paper wave was a really good example of a technologically induced mind control frequency that they would test upon the population to see if they could induce people to undergo some form of an utterly meaningless task that had no bearing whatsoever upon the current situation, but it was almost as if people had received a subliminal signal to consume or purchase a certain thing. And from what I can tell, upon looking at what we might call even elements of it, I don't know that it would show up in something like a dimensional layer such as an oversoul. I think that's an exaggeration. But in looking at what I would call the layers of experiential energy that have come and gone since we've been through that period, to me it represents that stage, or at least right now represents the stage in which we were just about to experience a great wave of some form of, whether it's induced technologically or spiritually or just a timed event on the earth plane. We're right about at that stage, right, you guys? For those of you that remember that. And somebody said it in the chat already. What's up, Valerie Smith? They had no eggs yesterday. How's it going? I hear you on that. Over here in the wilds of Florida, I'm grateful to say that we have been spared from, seeing a lot of those signs of shortages and whatnot. But here we are 3 years later. And my question as we get started here today, and, I know it's not always something you can fit in the chat, but what do you guys think is coming? What's the next wave of mind control madness? What's the next wave of, parasitic control structures? There we go. Control structures that are going to be leveled upon humanity. If there's one thing we know right now, suddenly all the banks that were already holding all the fake money, or are they actually collapsing, or are we being corralled into manifesting that timeline? Are we being kind of, are we co-creating that? I don't know. But anyway, we just kind of opened the door running with a bunch of thoughts that have been rolling through my mind the last few days. What better publicity stunt than to create a false arrest scenario for oneself? To me, that's been one of the greatest detractors of the me once again receiving what his movement has for anyone. It feels like it's become this kind of shameful child's game of like, who's the worst one and who's, going to be indicted, or, whatever it is. I think it's very similar to the sort of mind virus symptom that causes people to believe that everyone's going to experience mass arrests, or that everyone is in Gitmo. There's a certain form of like denial of like reality that one has to continue to ride on, that I think, I think we're kind of past the age of Trump. I hate to say it, you guys, because I know a lot of people that will watch this channel are kind of be within that soul group. But just over the, it's like, I even think, within the, and maybe I'm wrong, because honestly, I'm so uninvested in it at this point that I feel like I can kind of look at it a more objectively. I shouldn't say completely objectively, but more objectively than I would have in the past. And honestly, it looks like a dead timeline that people are being, kind of like with the viral madness, they're being corralled into creating it, kind of like, and I'm not saying the whole bank collapse is a thing that we're co-creating, although technically everything is, but I think the return to the Trump timeline is literally, an attempt to create, or to bring in something that kind of effectively died a while back. And not to say that I wouldn't, welcome a bunch of prices going down and some false sense of normalcy, like all of a sudden all the problems go away, as if that was possible. But anyway, this is probably as close to overtly political that I really ever get in here. So it's kind of it was an interesting gateway into tonight's broadcast. Anyway, thanks you guys. Thank you for being here. What's up? I feel you tonight, Valerie. Totally over it, right? I mean, honestly, maybe I'm not really over it. I think maybe I have become jaded in kind of watching the playing out of that whole thing. And what's up, Troy Stengel? You're kind of saying, what I think a lot of people went through. I think a lot of people did get really pulled into that. And here's the thing: I swear, I'm not here to do any sort of like I didn't do it, but honestly, I kind of didn't. I was one of those people. It will be historically seen for those that stalk me on Facebook or social media that honestly, I was never on board with really the whole Q team or that process, but I am also a person that literally read almost I used to say everyone, but in kind of looking back, I did not read, all the drops and all that whole business. Although I did for a long time, really consume and kind of energetically analyze a lot of it. And I have to be real, it was never something that really grabbed me. I was able to see that within certain layers of it, there was a lot of relevance, and there was a certain very distinct interaction and a forecasting and a whole like a lot of things. But for some reason, when I look back upon that, and even the energy that I received at that time, it never felt like something that was going to be permanently relevant to our timeline. It was like an occurrence and a bubble. It was like a wave that needed to come and pass to teach us about things that were going to happen in the future. And I had a number of awkward arguments with people on Facebook about it. How it's just like for some reason there was always a gap in terms of it's just something about it. I'll just say it. I still believe I just never really believed it, but that's how I am about a lot of things. If you want to get technical, but anyway, that said, before I go on as weird, angular, semi-political, right? For those of you guys that watch us all the time, you're gonna be like, "What, really?" Yeah. Every now and then, we will go into all that. But anyway, it's really good to see everybody. What's up, Wendy Tao? We just started a few moments ago, I think, right? I've been ranting for like 10 minutes in a very indirect manner, about, just me observing some of the wildness of the what we might call socio-political climate, and what just waves of mind control business and all the stuff that's been happening. I think there's going to be stages in the year where I think, especially 2023, where we're going to be looking back to 3 years ago and going, oh, now we know what's coming next. Because it feels like there's some sort of a repeat cycle that we're experiencing. But anyway, before I'm just going to stay on that track unless we change the subject. And so what I'm going to, first thing I'm going to start out by doing is this is coming up pretty soon, you guys. And so I do want to let you know, coming up April 8th, this is something that's in a few weeks from now. On April 8th, we're going to be doing a roundtable show talking about the Journey to Truth conference with a few of kind of vendors or healers or just people that are going to be doing some of the spiritual work and just some of the stuff in the background. We're going to be doing a live with them coming up April 8th. And I'm pretty sure we have all the people confirmed for that, but I'll kind of announce the names at a later time, because I think I need to go back before I misquote anything. But do look out for that. That will be our not our next show. We're going to be talking about that tonight, but that is coming up in the coming weeks. And what else is coming up? This Saturday, like a lot of you guys already know, this Saturday in the Blue Flame Collective Patreon group, we're going to be gathering once again. It has been a process that this is quite literally the third year of this strange group. And so we are still meeting every single month. And the reality is we have not only maintained our numbers, but we have grown, maybe not exponentially, but we have grown to a very, very respectable size and a very, very, just a really solid group of people that continue to show up time and time again. And what do we do with this? Well, what we've been doing for the last few months is doing a lot of readings. And every month we do like an energy clearing meditation and then a number of readings. And in the past, Honora has done some of the groups. A lot of times we'll sort of trade back and forth. But I think what it is and what it has been shown to be, or what it has organically turned into over the past few years, is I think a really, really natural and kind of welcoming place where people can like come in, learn about psychic development, learn about energy clearing, receive and experience those very frequencies in the energy of the moment, in the processes that we go through, and also receive a reading. So that it's in my opinion, it's a very, very unique group of individuals, because we have people in there that are literally professional intuitives and mystics that also do very, very similar work. We have very, very new people that are just starting. We always also tend to get, a lot of random people from like YouTube. Some people stay. Some people have been with us for 3 years. Some people come in and just do one event. They'll do one, group, thing, or they'll come to the energy body intensive class one time and then that's it. And that is also perfect. It's like people are going to get exactly what they need. But to be honest with you, I am honored that it still continues to this day and that people continue to show up. It really means a lot to me. And so for those of you guys that want to hang out with us, get a reading this weekend, because that's the cool thing about everyone that shows up gets a reading. I imagine one day, and I don't know, maybe this is on the timeline, maybe it isn't. It does concern me that one day there's going to be like 100 people there, and I'm going to be like, how are we going to do 100? How are we going to do 100 readings all in one group? And so, maybe in the future that structure may change depending on how many people show up. But we usually have a pretty good solid group, and so if you want to come hang out with us this Saturday, it's at 4 p.m. It is $10. That's like the lowest. That's the lowest tier, and you guys can just pay it one time. You can just roll through one time and hang out. Some people will stay, but please do join us if you feel called. That's where we're going to be. And so along with that, I'm going to go ahead and share this screen, because one of the requests that I have actually been getting, which is cool. I don't answer a lot of, stuff over Facebook lately. For those of you guys that have been reaching out to me, Facebook has been a little bit of a dead one and hard to keep track of. And, we have been on Telegram a bit more, but I have been very, very honored and very blessed to have a number of people reach out about connecting with me and Honora once again in person and receiving personal in-person individual sessions. And so oddly enough, it has literally been the group of people that joined us and met us at this conference last year. And so, this is what we're going to be talking about on April 8th. And this is also the next place in which you can meet us live and in person, as well as I think a few people in this very chat that are here watching us right now are going to be there. I know Aurora Diamond Heart is going to be there. And I think there's a few other people. But we are going to be here hanging out with a whole really cool group of people. As you guys have heard, there's a number of really interesting and awesome speakers. You can all see it on the screen there. I'm not going to go through and read everyone. But yeah, please do join us if you feel called. And so we're just going to be hanging out in the background with everyone. It's a little bit like a vacation for us in a weird way, but I say that as a person that at every single one of these events, all we do is do sessions and readings. And we are going to have our mobile Rife unit there, which we had last year, which is a really cool opportunity for people that do want to try a short-term Rife treatment in which we can quite literally re-energize and create a change. It's not always a lasting change when you only use it for a short time, but you can very effectively generate, a change in mood or a lightening of, just the physical body in a number of ways. And so we're going to be having a number of just, protocols and stuff that people can join us in. Maybe that sounds kind of cheesy. I don't know. Like when I hear myself talk about it, it's kind of cheesy, but when I experience it and the people that have experienced it there with us have, it has been really, really cool. And so please do join us if you are able, if you feel called. It's kind of really just an opportunity for everybody to hang out. Honestly, that's really all it is. I think these are like soul family gatherings that, a lot of people in this group, you are going to meet friends that you will probably know, maybe even for the rest of your life, or at least people that are going to be riding along this journey with you, that are going through a lot of the same things, that have a lot of the same views. There's not too many places these days where you can actually go and hang out around people and not have to kind of hide who you are, or, your ideas about this or that, or, whatever it is. And so I think for me, even though, we have very little involvement in it, we're just going there to do what we do and hang out with everyone. But I think just things like this are very, very important for those of us that are kind of trying to find our way within this strange awakening journey. And anyway, I'm just going on and on about this conference, but join us if you feel called. And that said, before we go into our main topic, I'm going to do infomercial number 2. A lot of you guys already know that we're going to do this, but which I think is part of the reason why our upcoming episode on Saturday is happening. And so a lot of you guys already know about this, but I'm going to be continuing to talk about it every single time we do a live over the coming weeks. And so if you don't already know, Saturday, April 29th and Sunday, April 30th is going to be our first ever weekend workshop where we're going to be meeting up 2 days in a row for this very, very cool and very, very unique workshop that I'm really blessed and honored to say that a number of people have already signed up for. And I'm looking forward to other people that are going to be joining, because I believe that we are at a stage in our collective development as a soul group where there are certain events and there's certain changes, there's certain realizations. We could say there's activations, there's abilities, there's things that are slated to occur within our individual lives and in our collective timelines that will, for a lot of us, necessitate certain changes and strengthening of certain things within the body, new understandings. Kind of like we're going to be revising and updating some of the firmware within the mental, physical, and spiritual body so that we can, learn to greater protect ourselves, to stay clear, to understand what's actually going on when we hear people talk about things like negative entities or psychic attacks or implantation or entity attachment, or, everything from hostile AI to, the idea that there's aliens coming out of your cell phone and, implanting your brain, which, honestly, technically is actually quite possible. Not that that's a thing that's really going on, but, everything's possible. And so for those of you guys that have been seeking more clarity around how these forces work, for those of you guys that have been trying to understand in an applicable way that breaches outside of the realm of the column of light and, the orbs and the calling in Archangel Michael and, the seeking the violent flame, which is a very real frequency. But I think that one of the things that I've noticed and a lot of other people notice is that we are in a stage within our sort of collective soul group where there is very much this over reliance upon these, if you want to call them flowery, if you want to call them false light. And it's not to say that they are, but it's that we have come to this stage in our spiritual development where many of us are starting to seek more. We are starting to understand that a lot of the methods, and honestly, I'm really not the anti love light person on any level, but I do cringe when I hear people talking about those terms as if it's become this spiritual product, as if it's become this consumerized process of clearing the body and staying in a high vibration and doing your shadow work and staying in the light. And there's a lot of people that talk about that. There's a lot of people that can show up on YouTube and wave their hands around and say beautiful words and generate an emotion, a very reliable wavelength of emotion within people's bodies that makes them feel as though something's happening. And then what happens later on in their life is that they're faced once again with the very same disconnection, the drama, the sickness, in some cases, the infestation or parasitic energies that inhabit, what we call the luminous egg, whether it's in our aura or it's within the energy body or even without, if it's technology that's aimed at us. What a lot of people do is we continue to go through this process of spiritual bypassing over and over and over again under the idea that we are engaging in some form of, whether you want to call it psychic self-defense or clearing processes, or, what a lot of people believe we're called to do, the ridding of darkness on the earth plane, when really what we're doing is just, putting this, flowery Band-Aid over something over and over and over again. And so before I go on too long, because I realize I'm already going on a rant in a, kind of an inflammatory way, some might say about this, that I believe that there are different processes. There are things that aren't that I don't necessarily always see that are being taught, and I know I'm not the only one. So this is not something that comes solely from Matthew. But one of the things that I've noticed within my own journey is that not many people are taught to cultivate vitality and strength within the body. Not many people are taught how to actually shield if we need to do that. And I think for a lot of us, we're coming to the stage where we're going to be called to step up and teach these things to others. That for a lot of us, there's a next stage in what we might call our mission, or whatever it is that we're called to overcome on earth, that unless we actually pull it together and learn to strengthen the self, to actually shield, to deflect, to return to sender in many cases. Oddly enough, as soon as I announced this very workshop, I had started to have almost like this organic occurrence of people coming to me in need of certain forms of protection or certain forms of, and I can talk a little bit about this without breaking someone's anonymity, but just yesterday is a really good example where, spirit will bring you people who are having problems that are relevant to the energy in which you are working at the time. And I had a person come in yesterday that was one of the most purest examples of a psychic or energetic attack. In fact, our belief was that it may even have involved some form of, very, very distinct ritual magic. And what this person received was a very, very distinct injury to their throat, complete loss of ability to communicate, absolute loss of their voice to the extent that there was nearly nothing there. And in sort of looking at that energy, what we were called to do by the guides and the team that is working with this person was to teach her about her ability to actually deflect. And it's not one of those things where you punch back at anyone. What you do is it's kind of like driving over to someone's house and just dropping it back off on their front lawn. No malice, no anger, just here you go. I think you left something over here. We're just going to put it there for you to pick up when you're ready. And I think that there are a lot of processes that we can learn to go through that break outside of this realm of this constant need to be in a battle or to be in a war or to constantly, destroy the darkness. What I've noticed about the dynamics of duality within this realm is that anytime you try to, destroy one of the fundamental forces of our presence on earth, it just pushes back every single time. And so what we're going to be doing in this workshop is working with, how to strengthen the energy body, how to understand what an attack is really like, when you're being attacked, what areas in the body would you want to clear or work with or tone into? Why would you want to work with those places? What happens when things don't work? What happens if you encounter something like an actual sentient entity? Or, in many cases, a lot of people are going to have a belief or an experience of being implanted within their journey. And that's such a crazy word, right, you guys? But here's the thing, we can be implanted purely by people's emotions. And so, what does that mean when a person is implanted? It means that there is something placed within their energy field. And in most cases, it is entirely non-technological. And in many cases, these are things that we pick up from other people. And so I realize I'm going on a very long, angular rant about this, but I think a big part of it is because I'm excited to be talking about a lot of this stuff. I'm excited to help people come to at least a little bit, just a little bit of a greater understanding that I think also a lot of the forces that we perceive as being the be all end all of evil in our world are actually not. Um, Most of the time, it's literally us. And so, anyway, before I go on too long, please do join us. We're going to be talking a lot more about this. We are going to give away, I think, 1 to 2 spots in this workshop over the next month. So don't worry if you're one of the people that can't afford it. You can also send us an email. If you need to do payment plans or anything like that, just send me an email through the website. But yeah, this is going to be fun. And so I'm looking forward to those of you who are going to be joining us. Anyway, I'm going to pull myself out of that little, I'm going to pull myself out of that rant. Anyway, let's check your comments. Thanks to you guys. Thanks for hanging out. The infomercial stage is over. You can now share this on your social media platforms of choice. Or actually, you could greatly help us by sharing this video anyway. But yeah, thanks everybody. Let's check your comments here. Let me know if you have any. Let me know if you have any questions before we go forward. Thanks, Hopeful Art. Good to see you. Maybe when you get hundreds of Patreon subscribers, you can enlist some of the longtime group members. I would actually love that. Help us build that group, you guys, because that is absolutely a goal. And I think that's one of the big reasons why we've been doing all these trainings and all of these processes with people over the past, almost 3 years, is because, and I would love to see that. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that publicly, Hope. What's up, Tim Williams? Oh, cool. We will definitely see you in Grafton. We're looking forward to it. Thanks, you guys. I'm just going to scan through for some of your questions here. You never know. Anyway, cool. Thank you. What's up, Julie Sunshine? It's not an AI attack. It's energy from the stun. I had to start from the beginning. Real late. You're probably right. I'm not exactly sure to which part you're referring to, because I guess you started earlier. But honestly, just the very statement alone. Just the very statement alone. It probably is. Maybe it is. Maybe it is all of those things. White Swan says black tourmaline that contains silica is a potent return to sender crystal to assist when doing this work. Actually, it very much is. In this case, at least in the process that we went through yesterday, was essentially the mirror process, in which people will learn to mirror energy that's being cast upon them back. It's one of the most effective, and in some cases, I have to be real, it can be a very difficult one for the sender to receive whatever that is. It doesn't necessitate the receiving of that, but what it does is it allows us to kind of reverse directional flow within some of the chakras, or the energy that's pointing at certain chakras, and aim it back. It's very much like, this is a super sensationalized example of it, very much like the Matrix, where he just boom, 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 they can just, easily deflect certain things. And you will know when it's working, because not only will you begin to receive just less energy from that person, a lot of the wound will start to drain out of the body. But in many cases, it's not like there's this great finality. It's almost like the sting of something goes away. It kind of fades within the body, and a couple of days or a week or sometimes months, because sometimes people really hold on. People will just have this moment where you're like, oh yeah, I realize I don't even think of that person anymore. It kind of just passed from my energy field. And so, but yeah, mirrors, you can absolutely use crystals. We're going to be talking about a lot of that. How and in what ways do they work? When would we use them? A number of things like that. I actually had a crystal in my pocket in one of the most and this, for some people, this is always gets a little bit cringe, but I was actually holding a crystal in my pocket during a time in which I had an actual encounter with it sounds cheesy, a living vampire. Some of you guys have heard this story. We're not going to go into it here today. But after that encounter, oddly enough, I had this crystal in my pocket that had snapped in half in this way that it had no pressure, it had no impact on it. It was as if there was some form of energy that I had been holding around me that had literally snapped. I'll talk about that probably in the book that we are putting out. And I think I've talked about a bit in some of the older lives, but oh Lord, there is a lot to say there. Vampires are very, very real. They are very physical. I did not view or witness any blood drinking of any kind, but massive consumption of energy. Massive, like unlike anything that you could imagine, like the highest heights of some energy that could be drawn and summoned out of a person in a very, very unnatural manner. And anyway, it's definitely a real thing. But thanks, Hopeful Art. Actually, yeah, that was where I learned about that process, was actually through that experience, and kind of talking to friends afterward and people that had other experiences with certain things like that. It in my mind was a random occurrence, and it was actually pointed out to me by other people that, like, whoa, this is not at all a random occurrence. Like, look at this whole series of events that had taken place, and which kind of makes sense for me. That was at a stage of my journey. I believe that was actually, yeah, it was 2018, late 2017, right at the start of this strange journey. And like a lot of us along the path, I am one of those people that when I immerse myself in a certain thing, or if I often make a decision or a choice to kind of understand or at least, at the very least, acquaint myself with a certain frequency, I will go all the way. I'm just one of those people. I think a lot of us out there are also very similar. When you actually begin to do something, you go all the way. And every now and then it really, really does not work out the way we're planning. The vampire experience, oh Lord, that was definitely one of those ones where at the end of everything you try to block and limit and just totally get yourself away on any level from whatever that was, and but a lot of us out there, when we go in, we go in. And so talking about going in all the way, we're going to have a really fun journey coming up this Saturday, which is it's kind of the reason for this live. It's also, we also had a lot of announcements, but I felt like it was a good thing to talk about, because I think for some people that watch our channel, we're going to be having a very, very strange and potentially triggering journey coming up this Saturday. And so for those of you guys that don't know, we did announce it on Facebook. I did not put it on YouTube yet, but I will in the coming days, at least not make an announcement on YouTube yet. But we have a really, really awesome interview coming up this Saturday at 8 p.m. with a gentleman known as Anthony from the YouTube channel Canadian Awareness that I have referenced several times over the past month. A number of us in our little multidimensional soul group have also connected with his energy, and I think this is a very interesting and compelling individual that I'm absolutely making a choice to bring their energy over to our channel. And I am going to talk about why. I am going to talk specifically about why, because I made a decision when I came into this work that I'm doing, when I decided to devote my life. And it's not like I made this choice, I'm going to devote my life. It's not like some deep, like decision. But when I realized I was at the stage of the journey where I was completely and fully invested in the path that I was on, it's like I made this choice where I was like, I would rather be real than be famous. I would rather know that something is the most truest, authentic, realist version of something than have, the most beautiful, shiniest, fake bullshit version of something. It's like I wanted to know what was real. I wanted to know, the highest highs and maybe even the lowest lows. I wanted to see the real nature of what is available within our multi-dimensional realm as best as I could. And, when I look at, some of the reasons why I started doing, limited interviews, because a lot of you guys have noticed I've been doing a lot of work over the past few months. So there's been a lot less interviews. But when I started doing that, my intention was that I would bring people in here that I knew, that I had felt their energy, that I was aware that was involved in something real and authentic. And so, man, let me tell you, we have found one of the most authentic and real versions of what we talk about when we talk about the reptilian collectives, when we talk about reptilian energy, when we talk about, things like the Draco Alliance, or the white reptilians, or all of the folklore and the mystery and the fear mongering and the craziness around those forces, or those beings. I think a lot of us in our community have, up until this point, received what has essentially been a fairy tale, or stories passed down from people that remember things from past lives or other timelines, or piece together memories, and we haven't seen too many versions of true embodiment of what that energy looks like. And so, Anthony's going to be, well, he's not joining us. We already recorded our interview and it's coming out on Saturday. And I am deeply, deeply fascinated by just how people are going to react to it, how it's going to be received. And I think a big part of it has to do with what appears to me to be kind of a collective awakening of certain elements of DNA within the body. As we go through this awakening journey, as we go through the process of, activating DNA, it's almost as if there are certain stages and experiential kind of waves of things that will pass through our lives as those elements of DNA awaken. And when we talk about, connections with extraterrestrial soul family, or elements of ourselves from past lives, if you want to go there, a lot of that, from what I can tell, and I know I'm not alone in this, starts to be organically uncovered as we go through this journey through the elements of our DNA that awaken. And what it appears to me, and I've been talking to a number of people about this over the past few days, is that we are in a stage collectively, and it's probably for everyone that's watching this, this live stream tonight. I would venture to guess that on some levels, many of you guys are going through the same thing, but we are receiving what would be called a collective activation of elements of our DNA pertaining to reptilian energies, reptilian DNAs. We already know that we have a reptilian center within our brain, very, very primal region. I always forget the name of it. Somebody out there knows. But what is happening right now is that many of us within our multidimensional community are starting to have organically occurring meetings, or contacts, or people are coming into their life to embody that energy. And so I believe it's very, very important to learn about these collectives and these beings from the most real, raw, unedited, and no bullshit manner. And one of the things I really appreciated about getting to talk to Anthony was that he brings that no bullshit, real, true, like, look, this is how it is. If you want to connect with these beings, if you want to understand what this energy is, here is how it goes. This is what it's like. And so we're all going to be getting a pretty big dose of that this Saturday. And I guess here's the hard part. This is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do this live, is because if you're one of the people that watches this channel that is easily offended by people that can look at you and say, the ideas you have are fake. Not only are they fake, I think they're bullshit. If you're one of those people that can't handle that type of exchange, if you're one of those people that gets easily turned away, if you don't have sovereignty within yourself, some of you are going to be kind of offended. Some of you are going to go, "Well, this guy's talking about exactly what I think I am in this moment." And so I would say only come to watch this interview if you're one of those people that's okay with being faced with a directly authentic, confrontational, a truthful, and yes, I will admit this, also honorable and respectful, true form of that reptilian energy. And it's definitely something that is not for everyone, but I think it's something that we as a collective stand to learn a lot from. I believe that there are certain things, not that everyone's jumping into, the Draco Alliance, not that we would ever say, yeah, that's a great thing to do, but I think one of the ways in which we are going to overcome the wavelengths, or this frequency of, whether you want to call it darkness or parasitic control, One of the ways we're going to really learn about, the concept or the technologies or the life forms that exist within the other realms of our planet and off planet is not going to be by waiting for something to happen. It is going to be by generating a form of strength and unwavering sovereignty within ourselves that empowers us to be the ones that actually make that change. And as far as I can tell, I feel a lot easier saying this now that I've had this conversation with a few other people. As far as I can tell, I believe that the wave of reptilian DNA activation that is occurring amongst many of us right now is brought about for the very purpose of helping us empower and strengthen. And if the word is liberate, then it will be liberate. If the word is realize, it will be realized. And, maybe it'll even be heal whatever it is that needs to be taken care of so that we can move forward in this process. Whether you want to call it, 4D, 5D, 22D, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? There's so many like dense and just ridiculous spiritual kind of terms behind it all. In my opinion, I believe that one of the ways in which we're also going to learn who and what we truly are and why we come to this planet is by learning to deprogram the waves of fear and propaganda and the literal lies that we have been taught by many figureheads, by many what we might call celebrities, by people that, in some cases were literally hired by a PR company who actually wrote their book for them. They didn't even write their book. It was written by a PR company. Some people believe it to be an AI. I wonder who that is. We might find out in our interview on Saturday. But it's a very, very murky road. And I think, one of the best things we can do, and I don't mean one of the best things we can do is, join the Reptilian Collective, but I think one of the best things we can do is to learn to toughen up as humans, to learn to stand in our power on a greater level, to learn to stop being satisfied with columns of light and, prayers to Archangel Michael and, mantras and mudras and, sitting there wishing that the ETs are going to take certain things away when we were given the power. When we had the ability to enhance and activate our energy system. It doesn't have to be through Qigong. It can be through any form of, movement and opening of the energy system. But just doing that alone begins to awaken those psychic abilities within us that each and everyone has. And I'm going to be honest with you. I have never seen a single person, a single, celebrity, secret space program, figurehead, super cool influencer person ever come on alive and say, hey, you guys, the way in which you're actually going to open up your abilities for higher discernment and, your intuitive faculties is by actually opening up and strengthening and cultivating vitality and sovereignty within your energy field. I have never seen anyone say that. And maybe I haven't been missing out, but I'll say it, be real. Go on Elena's channel. Go look at Corey's channel. Go insert any other secret space program influencer. And the only investment is toward telling you stories from a timeline that nobody can reach. Nobody's telling you how to generate strength within your body. And the ones that do are often ignored. And so what we do as a collective is we start to continue to kind of, hammer away. People that come to this strange little channel, we just kind of keep banging away. And so, the key for a lot of us right now, the thing that's I believe is going to help us get into the next stage of what it is we were called to do. And for a lot of you guys that are watching, a lot of us are called to be healers. A lot of us are called to be protectors. A lot of us are called to strengthen the energy body and, just move into in some cases, a whole new occupation, whatever that is. And there's a lot of us that are going to continue to sit here and, hang out in the group chat on YouTube and never, ever receive that news that, there's ways in which we can change everything. And I would not be here if those things did not work. I don't think it's possible that I would be, sitting on this, weird channel doing this weird, embarrassing thing if those things hadn't worked. So on some level, I am a living example of that. And, anyway, I'm definitely ranting about all that, but don't take this from me saying go out and connect with a host of reptilian beings. I think there's certain people that's going to be kind of a organic occurrence, and I think there's some people that it will be fundamentally incompatible with your energy field. But anyways, what's up, Dylan? I see your comment here. How's it going? I love watching the slow rollout of authentic reptilian energies and supporting the truth with that collective for a few years. learning and realizing myself. It's definitely picking up hugely now. I thank you for that comment. And I guess here I'm going to do a, for if there's any of the sort of haters that will watch my channel in the background, I've been aware there's always, I think there's 3 specifically that will still watch. This will be really fun ammunition to talk shit later. But I have come to a very, very specific and clear understanding that many of us right now have an actual, what we might call a version of ourself within the 4th, or sometimes, higher 4th density, maybe into 5th density, the literal version of yourself that will still exist within that reptilian form. It's not what we would call an avatar. It's one of the fractalized identities. And that has actually played a very, very big role in the formation of some of the techniques and the work that I have been doing over the past few years. In fact, it looks like at least the last decade of my life has been in some form either influenced or impacted by this fractalized version of myself, which, as far as I can tell, is a very, very physical being. A lot of us will also be linked with those elements of ourself. There will be other races as well. I'm not just talking about the reptilian, fractal elements of self. There are many, many other ones, but it is definitely a real thing. I see some of your questions and comments. What's up, Sherry Dubois? I keep talking and writing and healing. Folks are heard and more are listening out of curiosity, if nothing more. Many stories to tell. I won't do a one-way convo. I hear you. Thank you for that. I feel the energy behind your comment, and it feels very authentic, and I appreciate that. Let me know if you guys have questions, by the way. I'm literally just ranting about, random stuff at this point. But what's up, Michelle Martinez? I'm trying to ignore the potential psyops because I'm not sure what's real, but concentrating on healing only now, taking personal responsibility for my health. I have been doing a lot of the same thing. Like a lot of you guys, we had talked in, recent months about, cleansing and, fasting and regeneration of the physical body. And that is going to be a big thing that we're going to be doing more of on this channel in the coming weeks. I think before our workshop, actually, we're going to bring in a new Qigong routine, a short one for people to do here, because, once again, I'm not seeing too many examples of it. I am not an expert in any of those things, but I just think it's important to kind of pass on the pieces that, we have so that other people can take it and run with it. And so we're going to be doing some more work on the physical body. We've been doing a lot of readings over the past year, which we're still going to do, but we're going to go back into the Qigong realm publicly. If you want to do a live stream, you guys, where we go through a Qigong routine, let me know in the chat. And also, if you think that's lame and you don't want to do it, let me know in the chat. So if people don't want to do it, then I maybe won't waste my time on it. But I think that it will be helpful. I don't see too many examples of that currently going on. I know that you can go to a weekend workshop, through so-and-so on somebody's website and listen to them tell you the same things over and over and over again that you already heard several times before, that you'll probably go to a conference and pay a lot of money to hear again. You know what I mean? And every single time you'll get a little tidbit, one little extra piece of something, I don't see too many people saying, how do we actually generate a field of energy around our body so that when we do encounter negative energy, so that when we do go out in public, and I have, while I haven't really been responding on Facebook, guys, I apologize. I do see your questions, and someone wrote to me asking about, the workshop, and, thank you. It was a really beautiful message, very, very long, and I truly honor your experiences. But one of her comments had to do with feeling assaulted by people's energy when they would go out in public. And it wasn't even like they were getting attacked. It was just almost as if the energy of people, in this case, I think it was a mall, or it might've been, I think it was a bank that this person was talking about. They might even be on this chat. Is that, they would feel just assaulted and just completely blown over by people's energy. And you feel angry and sad and crazy. And, you get all of those. And for some of us, you guys, it's not really about that we are under attack or that we're, encountering some form of negative energy. For a lot of us, it's that we have become so empathic or we become so psychic, so intuitive, that we do not realize how open we actually are. And you can become so incredibly empathically and psychically open that you will literally walk past people, or even be, in a parking lot with certain people. And if your crown chakra is open enough and just your energy field is blown wide open, you will literally take on, in certain cases, not like you take them on forever, but it's like you can take on mannerisms, you can take on phrases that they say. And yeah, you take on illnesses and thought forms as well. And it is wild. I actually had an experience of that in late 2000, no, summer of 2017, right as I began to professionally start this work. Actually, yeah, no, it was literally just in the first few months where I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. We're doing this full time. And I was actually in Mount Shasta, California, and I was walking with a friend down a street, and we were just talking. It was just like, yeah, and then we're going to go get something to eat at this blah blah blah, whatever, normal human conversation. And I we walked through a very boisterous group of just these older Germans. They were just talking, in their language, just talking, just doing whatever they were doing. And as I was speaking to the person I was with and walking through these people's energy field, I began to speak in German. I do not know any German words. I wouldn't even know how to begin to say what it was that I was saying. But it was like, as I walked through a crowd of people that were using a certain language, I suddenly began to speak it. It lasted for maybe 4 to 5 words. I'm not trying to tell you guys I suddenly was speaking German. It was like this momentary bubble of energy that we passed through that was so powerful. And at the time, I was afraid of it. At the time, I was like, oh God, what the, it was like this weird, bizarre, embarrassing thing. It wasn't really embarrassing, but it was shocking to kind of feel and hear the words come out of my mouth, and to know it was like, whoa, what the, a very, very bizarre thing. And so that will literally happen. What I came to understand, the thing that enables that, number one, for a lot of us, very, very open crown chakra. It's probably not that there would ever be one kind of chakra that would allow a large opening into the energy field. You can have openings in your energy field for many, many different reasons. There's a million different reasons. But the crown chakra, if you were, let's say if someone were being affected by that type of energy, let's say if someone, in some cases wanted to open themselves up. I don't know that it's necessarily possible to blast it open to that level. I mean, obviously it had happened for me, but I don't know that I would know how to return to that state of openness without some form of, higher activation or group processes that I'm not aware of at the time. But just by opening and working on the crown chakra alone, you're going to be able to increase the amount of what we might call, non-physical energy into your energy field. And sometimes it's not the best thing to do. I got to be real. It can generate disassociation. It can generate manic waves. It can generate mood swings. It can generate, your energy field can be so open that you might not necessarily start speaking a certain language, if that, but you can make yourself open to very, very negative energies as well. And anyway, that, in kind of going back to that woman's comment, we're going to be talking a lot about that. I think that's one of the reasons why I want to do qigong a little bit more with people on this channel. I saw a couple of you guys say yes to it. What's up, Sherry? How's it going? It's good to see you. Cool. Hopeful Arts and okay, cool. We got some people. Nice. All right. So we got a few people that are willing to show up. You never know. You never know. It might actually work. And so, yeah. Thanks, everybody. Let me know if you have any questions. I do want to mention one more reptilian encounter that I had, which it's like I now that I've said it means I have to tell the story, but it's like a part of me is kind of on the verge of maybe not telling it because some people are going to get weird. I'm going to mention it in the interview that we have on Saturday as well, or rather, it's referenced in the interview coming up on Saturday, and so. I will talk about it here because I do think it's an experience that other people may have. I think that it is an example of maybe what might happen for some people when they might connect to a certain type of reptilian energy. Not that I can say exactly which ones it was or who it is, but when I first encountered the individual, Anthony, that's going to be coming on our channel on Saturday, there was a very interesting exchange. There was like almost like this latent kind of subliminal transmission of energy, and it was almost upon being made aware that there was a frequency that was available to me. Of course, I'm going to go check it out, and so I did. And in attempting to connect with what we might call the aspects of self, meaning, and for those of you guys that have been able to weather this long winding road here tonight, a few minutes ago I was talking about how we have not necessarily an avatar, but an aspect, a fractalized version of ourself that for many of us will be, there'll be many different races, and throughout the human life cycle we're going to connect with members of those races and aspects of self. And so my intention was connecting with the reptilian aspect of myself for the purpose of, because and this is an important thing to mention, because when you're connecting with any form of non-physical energy, whether it's something like that or whether whoever it is, intention is literally everything. Intention is everything, even if you don't know the right way to do it, even if you don't know the words to say. And it's not that it's always going to accomplish the result that you're seeking, but the most true and active ingredient in any magical or energetic operation is the intention. And so for me, the intention was, I want to connect with the version of myself that exists in the fractalized multidimensional realm, the reptilian aspect that has the ability to teach or bring forward tools, elements of energy, things that humans can use to empower our experience on earth, to heal if the word is applicable. And so in connecting with that, I believe that doorway was blown wide open for me upon, the encounter with that. And it's not that it's always about one specific person. A lot of you guys during the course of your journeys are going to, it's like you're going to have this astral handshake with certain people. It could be me, could be you, could be a random person. Which is why going to conferences is very important, everybody. Going to those, those conventions and meeting people, like the Journey to Truth conference is an excellent example of a place where you might quite literally meet a person that you have no idea about, who will, through no fault or no intention of their own, activate an element of your extraterrestrial DNA. One of the ways in which we experience these activations is in the encountering of those individuals. And sometimes it just takes a moment of recognition. I would not be operating as a professional psychic had not I had a person come into my life and say, "Hey, you're a psychic." A lot of you guys already know the story, but and so certain times people are going to recognize a frequency within you. And so in me connecting with what I understood as being that frequency within myself, was shown some very, very, very shockingly specific things, which I guess we're gonna go into. And so the very first time I attempted to connect with this energy, I had instant results, which is very uncommon, guys. And maybe don't expect it when you start reaching out to energies. I was not expecting that there would be an instant result. I did not, it was not something that I saw coming, but immediately upon moving into a meditative state, stating the intention, for me, what I will do is I will allow my body to settle, and I will kind of use this breathing process that I've picked up over the years, where it's like you'll sink yourself into, from an analytical perspective, what is essentially a theta state. And there's a lot of ways in which you can train yourself to go into a theta state deliberately. It's very simple once you practice it, but I will go into this meditative process, entering a theta state, which is something that I will do right here, literally at this table, which is where I do all my sessions. And in attempting to connect with that energy, I was taken through what we might call a visualization, or the process, maybe something that appeared like a wormhole. I think that that's a very common thing when you start to move out of the body. It's not always something that I have been able to hold on to or perceive directly. I have oftentimes just felt it and not visually seen it. But upon connecting with these energies, there was incredibly shockingly visual element. And so I observed this sort of twisting of energy that would kind of pull, in this case, it pulled me into what I would call a space of darkness. And I don't mean like, existential darkness. I mean like physical darkness. There is no light, there's just blackness. Some people would call it like a void type space. What I believe it is technically, having been there at other stages, is this sort of in between stage as you're entering and leaving, or as you're exiting rather, the sort of third density vibratory state and entering what we might call the lower echelons. I don't know if it's the right word. I guess I used it, of fourth density, like right at the lower levels. It's like there's almost like these buffer zones where it's like you won't really be able to perceive what is in that space, and it'll show up as this kind of blank spot or this dark space. I think some people mistakenly refer to it as the void, but what it is really you guys can imagine it like the space in between your walls. Thank you, whoever gave me that one. That was a good way to describe it. The space in between your walls, or a crawl space. Upon entering the multidimensional crawl space, what I was able to perceive was that in this case, I was brought to a very earthen place, meaning it was like a cave or a tunnel. Some of you guys are going to pick it up. You can watch the eyes. Lately, it's both eyes, so don't worry if you don't focus on my left eye. You technically don't have to, but if you are experimenting with your own versions of telepathy, you can definitely do that here, and you will pick up your own internalized slideshow, and it can be very reliable once you practice it. And so feel free to, you can look directly into the eyes, but what I was brought into was like essentially a tunnel, a very worn and rough earthen cavern or a tunnel. Nothing too particular about it, but I observed myself moving forward. And within this space was what I would describe as three beings in a triangular formation. Definitely, well, I can tell you that two of them were absolutely reptilian and humanoid in form. There was another being that appeared, if I were to imagine, it's to my right, on the right-hand corner of that triangle of beings, that I just couldn't really perceive it. It's like I believe that it was probably another reptilian-like form, but I honestly couldn't say, and I try to be authentic about what I perceive within that space. And so there was three forms. Two of them were definitely reptilian. One of them, I would call it more of a brownish maybe kind of color. That's the best I can grab onto. On the left was one that had almost like I would say like a raptor-like appearance, less of what we would call a dinosaur being, more of like for lack of a better word, a raptor being, perhaps. Respect to whoever that being is. I hope I'm not slaughtering your appearance. He was more gray. It was like gray and black, almost like kind of like an iguana. Boom. Thank you. Like mixed, like a raptor mixed with an iguana. He had kind of stripes, as if an iguana would have stripes, black and I believe grayish in color. And so in this situation, I was able to observe, and it was almost like you would enter a museum or something, and you would see this diorama that someone had set up, and you could come to a glass like this, and you would just come to this barrier. And what I could see was that in the center of them was something that looked very much like how people will balance rocks. Sometimes you guys will see, like YouTube videos or those little, shorts where it's like somebody balancing rocks at a river, and the rocks are positioned in this very, very strange manner, and they're sort of like, almost floating. And so within this situation, it's not like it was rocks, but it was like some form of either objects or energy. I'm trying not to add any or embellish anything. If I were to kind of grab onto it now, it was almost like some form of discs, and it was like discs that were suspended, and just kind of suspended there. In kind of looking back on it, when I kind of try to analyze what I perceived in this place, and I say analyze because this is not what was relayed to me. This is in me looking back on this experience. What I take from it was that I was able to view this process of these beings connecting within this space, going through something that they would do. What it felt as if each one of those three beings was bringing their consciousness into the objects in the center, and their process was putting their energy into it, and the structure or the things they were balancing would grow. And what I believe it to be is that their process of doing that is one of the processes that they will use to reach out. And what I believe the discs that they were kind of levitating within this kind of triangular formation, I believe what those have to do is with kind of vibrations or resonant elements of whether it be people or soul groups or bloodlines, almost as if like they're playing certain records out in astral space. And you know how sometimes you'll be driving on the road and you'll hear a car and you'll be like, oh, I know that song. Every now and then, maybe you'll walk past someone's house and you'll hear something that is familiar to you. You might not know what it is sometimes, just a fragment. In looking back on it, what it felt as if they were doing was kind of sending out a frequency. And I can't say that's what they were doing. That's the feeling, that's the impression that I get from it. There was no interaction. There was nothing. It was almost as if I was allowed to view something, and then that was it. And so I will mention one other thing for the sake of completeness. In what I would call the back, not that there could be a left corner, but just to the left, in the rear of this cavern, was something that looked like almost like a horseshoe shaped, kind of like a doorway, but very, very rounded, very, very massive, like a very rounded archway. Not that I could see anything on the other side of it, but it's like you will notice within these spaces how you can see certain elements of it that will kind of stand out to you. And so there did appear to be somewhat of a gateway or a doorway on the other side of this opening, but that was the initial encounter. I mean, and it was absolutely instantaneous. I mean, very, very, very rapid. So they definitely made themselves available, at least for the process of viewing. And I'll be very, very authentic. And then who knows, maybe there will come a day in which I will say otherwise. But to be very honest, there was no emotional quantity. There was no feeling. There was no exchange of bad or good or dark or light. It wasn't one of those situations where you receive this kind of vibratory essence, and but it was quite literally one of the most specific and vivid viewings that I've had of such well-formed beings, whether it's an apparition or something that I actually viewed. It is not every day where I will have that encounter. I think a lot of us are at that stage. There will be great waves of activation that we roll through, in which the energy really kicks up. The internalized waves of mystical experiences rise, and we'll go through the ebb and flow of that within our awakening journey. And so for me, it's certainly been a while since I perceived something so clearly. And so I'm going to scan for your questions really, really quickly, and then we're going to go to part 2. So let me know if you have questions. What's up, Richard DeWalt? Is this an interview with Anthony or not? I thought it was this Saturday. It is on Saturday. Don't worry. It's definitely coming out on Saturday at 8 p.m. What we're doing here today is I'm just doing a live and kind of talking, rambling incoherently about some of the experiences that have been going on. We did a couple announcements, talking about random stuff. This is just us getting weird at the multidimensional trailer park. And we're also giving some context for those of you guys that are going to watch our interview on Saturday and get triggered. And I hate to say it, you will. Some people are going to be like, what? Oh, he's talking about me, but he's not. If you're solid in yourself, you have nothing to be ashamed of. But for those that are fakers, for those that are pretenders, you probably might watch it and go, oh, I can't stand this guy. So, that's okay. I mean, it's going to be, certain people are going to be drawn to it. Others are going to go, no, and, rightfully so. But anyway, let's check for some questions here. What's up, Sarah Brinkerhoff? Like a corridor? I can't say that there was a corridor, but I could say that there was a horseshoe-shaped like doorway. I wish I could say it was on the other side of it. I wish I could say I could even tell you like just the nature of it, but it was literally like a horseshoe-shaped, like a stone thing, like an archway, I guess. Is it an archway? Almost like you guys will see images of, I think, maybe I'll show you the images of, I think it's a place in Peru where they actually have, it's like this doorway that's in the rock, and there's nothing, it's like it's not a door, it's just a doorway that is shaped into the rock. And in my opinion, and this is an opinion, because it's like it's something that feels very hazy within my recollection of this experience, and I like to be really specific about that stuff. To me, that's what it represents. One of those kind of those doorways that would have been carved into, like a pyramid or something, but there's no door. And so, anyway, I feel like I'm getting kind of weird about it, but I think that's why we're here. There you go. White Swan got it. She said it. Archway. Totally. What's up, Greg? With a reptilian sending thought forms. In this case, honestly, I cannot say there was any form of an exchange. There was not an exchange. I just got to see something, but we will talk about part 2 in just a moment. Somebody knows rock stackers out there. I see it. What's up, Juliana Costello? Integrated reptilian consciousness with Anthony is an intense one, so Saturday night will be a bomb. Totally, come hang out with us. Thanks for hanging out, Juliana Costello. I appreciate it. What's up, Rocks Rachel? I heard I had Draco. Can it be a bad Draco type? Just curious. Well, from what I understand, and I'm also very new with learning to connect with these energies, but from what I have been shown right now, I'd say it is something that if it is appropriate for you and meaningful for you to connect with in this life, there will be some form of an introduction or an opportunity for you to kind of move into that state. I would say check your guidance, check your heart, notice what you feel about it. Maybe we do. I believe every one of us here, if you're watching this, and maybe that's not how it is for everyone. So some people are going to take what I'm saying here as just woo-woo, spiritual stuff. But one of the things many of us do discover is that what we perceive as being our higher self is actually a collection of beings that we have existed and do concurrently exist as throughout the multidimensional planes that actually allow and lend their consciousness to facilitate in part, not fully, to facilitate in part our existence here on earth. That those elements of spiritual guidance for a lot of us, that's actually other versions of us on higher dimensional planes. It's not saying that that's all that it is, because I know everyone gets, we get really specific, and some people are very tied into their understandings about the nature of how spirit guides and energies such as that operate. But it's definitely there. And so I think, Rocks Rachel, we all have that element of ourself. In my case, and I don't even know if I technically have authorization to divulge this, but I guess I will without saying anything crazy. In my case, through my experience with this gentleman, we were able to pinpoint not only the name of the race, but also the actual star cluster from which they originate. And not only the name of the race, but also what is essentially a vibratory calling card that one can use to connect with that race. And so very, very specific. That's honestly why I think, people have great opportunities to learn from individuals that can represent this level of specific, and especially this level of authentic energy. And so, every now and then you get specifics. It's not that those specifics are always, truth, but I think what it does is, it gives us something to grab onto, to investigate, to peer into, if we choose to meditate upon, to understand more deeply. In some cases, we'll choose to go, I'm going to avoid that entirely now that I know what it is, and that, that's totally okay. But for some of us, it can and will become very, very specific. It does also appear as I am linked very legitimately with a group of actual physical flesh and blood, what we might call earth-based reptilian races. Yet at the same time, that's very, very standard occurrence for many of us here within this soul group. It's just that for a lot of us, we have been taught and we've heard and, we watched all the videos and everybody's testimony about how, whenever that energy presents in your life, it's always a fearsome thing. It's always a negative thing. And In some cases it can be, and in some cases it will be. And that's going to, I do believe that those experiences are agreed upon prior to coming here on a soul level. But for other people it's going to be something else entirely. And so anyway, thank you. We'll check really quickly for any more comments. Sarah Brinkerhoff says, check your galactic birth chart. We definitely did, but I definitely recommend that for everybody here. Honora is very good at reading those. For any of you guys that want to get a hold of her, Honora has a new Substack page. It is called Celestial Signpost. And so I'm actually going to put it up on the screen here real quickly. Let me just grab it in the background. And so for those of you guys that have also been following Honora's work, I'm trying to find it here. There it is. Boom. So let me just pull this up on the screen here. Boom. I know it's always weird when I do this screen thing in the background. If you're anything like me, you will cringe when dead air occurs and a person is, trying to find something on their screen during a live stream experience. But for those of you guys that are interested, Honora has started a Substack page in which she's going to be talking, I think, on either a monthly or a bi-weekly basis, just about some of her current understanding, some of the things that she's interested in, some of the ways in which she works with people's energy, whether it be from an astrological perspective, intuitive perspective, or also the work that she does with children. Because one of her other primary kind of duties, or just occupations or missions, if you want to call it, is just on through the process of being, not only a child healer, a psychic, but also one of the individuals that works on a professional level in helping deprogram autism as a legitimate child therapist. And so I think that she comes with a very unique and wide-ranging set of intuitive abilities that in many cases, I think, are the kind that a lot of people don't ever hear about. You know what I mean? They might not know. They might not hear about it. They might not be aware of, I think, the depth that some people hold. And so my hope is that some of you guys, if you choose, you can check out her page here. It is Celestial Signpost, substack.com. And so she has her first post out just now, and it's really cool. A number of people have already subscribed, and you can do that entirely for free, by the way. You don't have to pledge any money. But for those of you guys that want to check out her work, for those of you guys that enjoy what we do and want to continue to support her, and especially Honora, and just kind of putting herself out there, this is it. This is her Substack page. And so check it out if you feel guided. Boom. So anyway, thanks everybody. Oh, there it is. Somebody got the link. Thank you, White Swan. I sincerely appreciate him. And so moving forward, let's talk about stage number 2. And so part 2 of the Reptilian connection experience came, I would say, a couple weeks later. I want to say just within the past week. My concept of time is horrible, but within the past week, upon entering into that state once again with the intention of connecting in an appropriate manner with whatever the energy is able to offer, or at the very least relay in a meaningful manner. In this case, I was brought to something very, very specific, and we talk about a little bit of this on Saturday. Very, 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 very minor part of it. And so upon moving my consciousness out of the body once again, what I was able to perceive in this case was something almost equally as fast, which sometimes is a little bit crazy, but I was brought to what essentially looked like a sphere, or if I wanted to call it a planet, maybe it's a planet, but it appeared to be a massive spherical structure. It could be a realm, it could be a gateway. And so this is where this will get a little bit weird for some of you guys. It's going to be a little bit dark, but I'm going to tell you exactly as it is. And so Upon entering the space, what I perceived in front of me was as if I was suspended above a body of water. Some of you guys are going to pick this up. This one you guys are going to pick up really easily, I think. And so I was imagine that we are suspended above a body of water. It's night or it's dark out, and you're able to view the water down below. And what I was able to see was that it was not water. It was a thrashing, writhing mass. Get ready. A thrashing, writhing mass of dismembered bodies, of like beings, and like there was like some that looked like crocodile beings and like human arms and things. And I mean, honestly, where you're like, man, what do you do when you're face to face with something like that within an astral space? And the first time I was able to perceive this barrier, what I was told was that this is the barrier to a realm or a gateway. What I was shown within this crazy writhing just mass of just darkness was that this was a layer that was made up of the many beings, the avatars of people that had tried to enter that realm, beings that had attacked it, wars that had gone on, ships that had been pulled into this sort of what looked like almost like a black hole, this sort of structure. And it was basically this layer of energy around this realm was literally this wave of destruction that had occurred. Anyway, without going on and on, because for some people this is a very, very gruesome thing. What I was told was that if a person were to try to breach that zone, they would be eviscerated. That their consciousness would be contained within that sort of barrier. And yes, it was very weird. It was very like what? It was a little. I'll be real. It's a little bit frightening to perceive such a thing. And I could feel myself like rejected from it. It was like this energy kind of pushed me directly out of it. And so I want to say maybe like a day or two later, it might have even been the very next night. So a very short time later, in the interest of, was that even real? Did I perceive such a thing? Could that have actually been a thing that I perceived? Going internally to find out more about what this construct or what this realm represented. Once again, we came right back to the same place. How rare is it that you're going to have an experience in which you will return back to another dimensional gateway? And I think, not only is this a testament to this man's authenticity when we say that certain people have an ability to activate a wavelength or to give you an example of a frequency, to give you something to grab onto in the astral realm. I think that's very much what it was. And so upon returning to this space, this time, there was not a exchange of information. What I observed was myself moving through this barrier of this darkness, this massive layer of like whatever it was. And yes, it was very much the same thing. The most noticeable part of it was like, it looked like the backs of crocodile beings that were like swimming through it, like these sort of just fearsome, like honestly horrid things that I could see why people would perceive that in an astral space and go, oh, no way, I will never look at such a thing again. Which is why I say I do not recommend peering into such thing unless you are able or willing to see something that will shock you. I think because I had, maybe not, but because I had encountered other beings that I knew they would create a feeling of fear within me, I think that might have made me more either stupid or more willing to push through it. But in this case, I did not push through anything. It's like we just went straight through it. And so what I perceived as going straight through it, it was very much like a thicket of like a bush, like these thorns and things as I would pass through it. To me, it felt, in looking back, this was not a thing I noticed in the time. And then as I look back and analyze what I perceived in that situation, it was like passing through a thicket or a thorn bush. And what I could see inside of it was things that at first I thought they were eyes, because it was like almost like hundreds or maybe thousands of these yellow, what I thought were eyes, like in the dark, all these kind of eyes, like, lighting up. You know how you'll see images of cats in the dark and you can just see their eyes, or even like alligators in the water, you just see eyes. And so I thought it was eyes. As I got closer to it, what I realized it was the sides of like a cavern, and the lights were, oh yeah, those, they were lights. They were not eyes. They were essentially lights, which maybe they were dwelling spaces, maybe they were not dwelling spaces. I honestly cannot tell you either way. But what I perceived was lights that I assume this was like a dwelling space within this realm. And maybe this is off Earth, maybe this is on Earth, maybe this is on another dimension, maybe this is on another planet. That information was not given to me. But upon moving through this structure, we continued to move through, and everything started to turn red, as if there was like this red light, or as if you were in a dark room. It was a very red colored space. I was able to perceive the walls turned from a cavern. Some of you guys are going to pick this part up because it's still so vivid within, just within my mind's eye. The walls turn from those lights and those structures, what I perceive as dwelling spaces. And after a time, when the red light came in, it became smooth walls, like one would imagine inside a pyramid or inside a temple. And I do believe that I might have been going upward. I believe that there may have been somewhat of an upward incline that we were traveling on. I say we, I'll tell you now, there was other people there present. I could not see their faces, but they did a thing that I did as well, which we will get to. But upon moving upward, what I saw on the sides of this place was like the Egyptian gods, or like statues of like pharaohs. And there was definitely one that had a crocodile or like a reptilian kind of face on it. There was a number of them. There was there was like some sort of I know there was symbols at the bottom of a couple of the pyramids, but it's like, even when I try to grab onto it right now, it's very, very hard to grab onto. So as I watched my consciousness moving up this sort of incline, what I was able to perceive was like a wall, and it was a very smooth wall. It was very red, and it was like we were rising up this walkway to this wall, and there was just a blank wall there. It looked very old, just totally blank, like this blank kind of reddish, kind of orangish yellow wall, very, very red inside this place. And within just a moment, it turned to like this sort of greenish, yellowish color, almost like, when you reverse the colors on a color photograph and you get that super wild kind of neon spectrum, but it was like yellow, and it was like white in the center and like yellow and then like red on the outside, almost like the flash of a camera. But it went over the wall, and then all of a sudden there was a massive, like a throne, this huge, massive, I guess I would say like a throne room, essentially. And excuse me, as I'm literally anyway, my nose is definitely running. Pardon me. Some of you guys saw that. I feel like somebody saw a little drip of something there. Anyway, it turned into what I perceived as being a very, very large throne. And I wish I could say that I could tell what was on it. I know that there was a being that appeared on that throne. I could not see the face. And I think that this is a thing, I've heard this happen to other people that have encountered a very powerful, whether it be a multidimensional being, whether it be some form of a reptilian consciousness. What I could see in the background as what I believe to be a throne that appeared was other humans. There was definitely other humans, because there was other beings to the right of me, but it's like as if there was no consequence. It was just, I could see that there was beings to the right of me, and there was beings that seemed to be standing behind the throne, but I could not actually perceive the being that was upon it. It's like a part of me could see that there was a body that was sitting there, but it's like something is blurred. And so, I'm going to be honest with you. I wish I could say there was some incredible exchange, but what I observed was myself and others doing these Egyptian poses. And it was like they kind of had me stand in front of this sort of throne room thing. and myself and others we just stood there and held, like those, that orb that you'll see on the Egyptian statues where they'll have this orb above their head. It was like we sat in this pose and just stood there, and this light kind of lit up on top of their head. Um, and it was yeah, I could probably go on and on, but I think we're gonna leave it there. We're gonna leave it there for the moment. But that was essentially the heart of it. I wish I could say that there was some incredible exchange. I wish I could say that there was some beings that we met there. I wish I could say, this reptilian god came up and was like, "What's up, bro?" It was nothing. It was nothing like that. But it was one of the most vivid and notably real experiences that I've had in some time. Now, let's make it even weirder. Get ready, guys. We're gonna make it even weirder. So, I woke up in the morning with a name in my head, which is a very, very rare thing. To be fair, Honora and I had mentioned and talked about this being because I discovered it, not organically. A lot of people had discovered and heard of, whatever this being is, or maybe what I believe to be a representation. So I might be wrong. This might be Matthew's consciousness looking for another element of something to tie into, a story that, he's mistakenly misinterpreting. But I actually woke up with a name in my head, and so we're gonna put this guy on the screen. Some of you guys are gonna get freaked out. Okay, I'm just gonna be real. You guys are gonna get freaked out, but we're gonna bring him up. Don't get freaked out though. But this is the dude right here, and so apparently, this is a being from Peru that is part of a group of ancient reptilians that they call Moro. And so I was actually able to interface with this being, or at least what represented as this being. And what I do believe there's a possibility that that experience was in part made possible through this being and the collective that it represents, overtly choosing to make itself available to humans for very, very specific purposes. And so first off, some of you guys can see this on the screen here, the capital of friendship. This is literally where the statue to this being is erected, in a place in Peru known as the capital of friendship. And so what's the capital of friendship about? The capital of friendship refers to a relationship that the people of Chiclayo had with these many beings, these gatekeepers of what some people call shadow realms, the realm of the dead, the spirit realm, what some people might call the lower astral plane. And so when I woke up, this guy's name was in my head. And since then, I believe I have had a very, very distinct empathic, what you might call interaction. I am not and will never be a channeler. I will never, ever claim that. It's not a desire that I have, but a lot of us, we are all able to interface with certain beings. And so I did actually have what I believe to be an interface with this being. And I do believe that this being's energy is not only available for people to tune into, and I do not recommend it unless you feel guided to it, but that it does represent what we would call a group of reptilian consciousness that actually wants to help empower human consciousness, which I think is why they allowed themselves to be erected at a place called the capital of friendship. But it is said that this was a physical being. This was a physical being that existed in antiquity that was known to educate the people of the tribes on, in some cases, how to get rid of evil, in some cases, how to fight off demons, in some cases, how to seal away, curses from the dead, how to essentially, he worked as somewhat of a shaman of sorts. I do not believe entirely good on any level. I believe this to be what we might call one of the gray in terms of, a neutral kind of polarity. And so for some people, it would be a very, very negative and fearsome thing to connect with. But it was made very, very available. And I think that it's just one of many beings that exists within our multidimensional network that Every now and then, I think we are going to be we're going to be encountering some of these beings, and maybe it's important for us to begin to, let go of some of the implanted fear frequency around it. But this is actually where I was shown that process of awakening the DNA within certain individuals. What it essentially is awakening a vibration of an aspect of yourself that existed within the time period in which these beings were in physical contact with humans. And so some of us were, we may have existed as these beings. Some of us existed as people that were living alongside of them. And so yeah, they, as far as I can tell, I do believe they are playing a part within just some of the protocols and the processes that we're going to be using in learning how to empower the human energy system on a level that allows us to make, more use of our abilities and to truly begin to discern light from dark, light from dark. And so very, very, really, really interesting, very, very, very wild name. And so the name that they give here is spelled as Moro. But this is one of the ways in which I do believe that I was able to identify that was the authentic version of these beings, because what I was shown was that that's actually not their name. The name is actually a reversal. And so the reason why their name was reversed was to change the layers of access and the manner in which people were reaching out to or connecting with these energies, meaning that their energy was reversed, almost like so that people would use that name, they would send it out and nothing would happen. Nothing would happen. And so the name that I was actually, I don't even know if I'm authorized to say the name. And so, but it's essentially a reversal of that. It's a kind of a reversal of that being's name, and that's not the name of that being. That's not that being's name. It's the name of the collective and the frequency that they represent. And so, anyway, that's just what I was shown. Take it or leave it. I am not saying this is truth. I am merely relaying my experience with what I was shown within this space. Somebody asked for a bigger image of it. We'll click on this one. Maybe they'll show it to us. That's, oh, wow, that's horrible. That's so small. Let me find another one here. Does that work any better? Maybe. No, it is. It's so small. Sorry, guys. It's so small on the screen. I apologize. Let's find another one. Maybe this one. See, the ones that are available on this one are very, very small. Let's hear. Here we go. This is a little bit better. So here's the thing, man. It's like, right, you guys, when you kind of look at these energies, this is not, in my opinion, I'm not on here saying, hey, connect to this being, jump in there, try to, communicate with them. That is not my recommendation. At all, unless you feel that that's appropriate for you. I can tell you that in my interfacing with them, there was not a negative emotion. There was not a transference of some form of crazy energy. I can tell you that I definitely felt a bit taxed. Like there's a lot of energy that I think is involved. When you have those experiences, but what I encountered, honestly, within my heart was that it was not a negative thing, but definitely a very, very powerful energy that I think for some people, the amount of adrenaline that it will raise within your body, because I think that's going to be one of the signs that you'll know when you kind of actually connect with it. There's a body response that you'll get. That alone, I think for some people is going to kick off a fear response in the body. And I think that's part of what happens when you will connect with an actual extraterrestrial energy in certain forms or non-physical energy. Your body's going to have it's like an ancestral genetic reaction in which you're going to feel a certain it's like just like this crazy kind of this sort of fear will come in, which is which is why I'm saying from the heart, do not connect to this. If you don't feel that you're willing to perceive such a thing. But what I was shown, that they were very much like gatekeepers, and they would take souls back and forth between, or they would take souls to the shadow realm or back and forth. There's certain beings at that stage on Earth. There were certain beings that were able to walk the earth that we would have perceived as monsters at that time, or very, very fear. I mean, well, look at this guy. Obviously, anyone who saw this guy would be like, what? You know what I mean? He would be perceived as a monster in our time. But what I was shown is that they were existing in a time on Earth, or in a region in which they were among many, many different forms of life that were existing on that plane. And one of the things that at least this collective of beings was showing me, one of their tasks, which they also educated the humans on at that time, was learning how to bring those beings that had what they call escaped from an underworld, or had been brought out, or in some cases summoned. They were responsible for taking them back once again. And so for those of you guys that want to do some research on this town, you're going to find very few videos, and most of them are going to be in Spanish. So you're going to be better off than me, because I have not been able to translate only but one of them. But what you will find is that there is actually a park in this town with a whole host of other statues of mythical creatures that the townspeople claimed actually physically walked the earth in this place. And so they literally give you the representations of many of them. It's called the Capital to Friendship. And supposedly, within a short distance from where that is, there's actually a public park where it is said there's a space for people to actually meditate or to connect with those beings that once inhabited that area. And so, for those of you guys that want to go down a fun YouTube wormhole, it's a really, really cool one. Potentially a bit frightening, but in my opinion, what this energy represents is not something that wants to consume or destroy human energy. I think it represents an energy that, while very, very different and potentially triggering from ours, is part of the group of multidimensional beings that are going through their own version of ascension processes, meaning that they're moving into the next stage of their consciousness cycles. And I think in many cases, like we have learned with the law of one, in many cases, in order for them to, properly go through their ascension cycle, there's certain karmas, there's certain corrections, there's certain exchanges, there's energies and things that they will also go through alongside other beings. In many cases, beings like us. A lot of people believe within the multidimensional realms, humans, the human life cycle on Earth has the ability to what we would call transmute or heal, not like I can put a number on it, but what we might call thousands of lifetimes of karma. Exponentially greater amounts of karma can be solved, can be transmuted, can be worked with on Earth. And I think that, or at least what I have been shown, is that is one of the reasons why these beings will also connect with us during this journey, because as we go through our process of awakening and ascension, these beings go through their own as well. And so just based on, the idea that these beings existed with us here physically on the Earth plane, it would make sense that at this stage of great change or activation that's going on, that, their consciousness would in some form return once again. So please let me know if you guys have any questions. I know I've been skipping over a lot of comments, but I see them in the background as I've been ranting. Aurora Diamond Heart says, does that dude seriously have a chicken on his head? I believe that he does. I don't know that it's specifically a chicken, and I do not know what the significance of it is. I do believe that the significance is available, and I will let you know if I receive it. Now, honestly, it feels very much like it is available. What's up, Greg? So Earth is AP. You know what? Maybe it is. It's like literally advanced placement summer class for these, ascending souls that want to come down to Earth and go, hey, check it out, man. I want to knock out everything, or as much as I can, all in one term. We're going to take as many credits as possible, come down here on Earth, and we can advance so rapidly, or on such a, maybe not rapidly, but to such a farther distance than maybe we would have been able to, having incarnated, within a fourth density body, within, maybe other wavelengths within the fourth to fifth density range. And maximum catalyst for growth, as they would say in the Law of One. Thanks, Dylan. I have never been to Peru. Let us know if you've been to Peru. Thanks, Greg. I don't feel malintent from that statue. Honestly, I don't either, but let me tell you, I'm going to be real, you guys. If one of those dudes walked in the room, like for real, like imagine, honestly, if you all of a sudden turned around and that guy was sitting in your, in your living room, I believe, myself and most of us maybe would not be able to handle it. It's not like we would die of fright or something, but I do believe that most of us are really, maybe nearly all, a very high percentage of us are probably not ready or equipped to be face to face with such a being, even though everyone wants to say that they are. Everybody wants to be, oh yeah, sure I could, sure, yeah. I honestly don't agree. What little I have encountered of this energy so far, and no, nothing asked me to sell my soul. There's no, there's nothing like that. There's no negative bargaining that take place. But it's very, very extreme, very extreme. And so, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh my God. She probably doesn't. Sorry about your cat. Sorry, Gail. Somebody's cat's out there puking in the background. I'm sorry to hear that. Anyway, let me know if you guys have any more questions. We don't have too much more to go into here tonight. We're just relaying some experiences, talking about the reptilian realm. I wonder if some of you guys out there have also encountered similar beings in your own journey. I know a couple others of you in this chat have had encounters with reptilian beings. Thanks, Gail. It's so interesting how there's so much reptilian connections with Matthew and some people drawn to this channel. I really hope you get that reptilian channel or on the show. He's coming on Saturday. But like I said earlier, some people, it might be a hard road for some people, or you might be a little offended. You might not agree with everything. That's okay. There's no need to. There is no need to. I'm just going to scan through to see if there's any other comments here. What's up, girl? And her gong sounds similar to the lower world in a shamanic journey. When you said crocodile, I was thinking Egyptian. I think it was, a gateway to the beings that will encounter and work with those beings. Or within that vibrational space, that sort of gateway to, I guess we would call it a lower astral realm. Trust me, not that that's a place we're hanging out on too often. I'd say most of us are more likely to exist in what we would call the eighth sphere of man-made spiritual consciousness, the false light realm, maybe a bit more so than we would in the lower astral plane, but we're certainly affected by it. We're certainly, it is a massive force that a lot of us are contending with. And so anyway, let me pull this off the screen. So this is a very, once again, for those of you guys that want to check this out, there are a number of videos on YouTube. There's a few people, that will, give you a little bit more background on it, but most of it is dedicatedly in Spanish. If anyone finds any, lengthy, really good versions of people that are willing to talk, more about this on YouTube, please send them our way or put it in the comments later on. I might be totally wrong, maybe, and this will happen for those of us that do connect within the multidimensional space. It's every one of us at a certain stage is going to come up against, some form of an imposter or in a potential hijack scenario. And most of the times when those occur, or when you have you suspect that something like that will happen, or even when you're constructively analyzing what could have taken place and kind of looking back on if it was some form of a hijack or an alteration, or even a simulated experience, look out for the emotional quality of it. Number one, look out for the emotional quality of it. Like, how did you feel afterward? What sort of vibrations or energy did you have within your body? What sort of thought forms came with it? Was there an effect? Did you receive anything? Was there, look at the many parameters: emotional, physical, spiritual. Notice your feelings. Notice what comes in. Notice your behaviors and your emotions in the days after that. One of the things you will notice, I think, when you do connect with reptilian energy, is that you might notice some heightened aggression, or more of, and not necessarily negative, but you will notice a little bit of a heightened energy within yourself. Some people might get some form of anxiety, and that's not always necessarily a negative thing, but it's not always a thing that I definitely don't recommend, seeking that type of energy. But there's going to be times in which you're going to notice it. So look out for the after effects. And in many cases, that's going to tell you about the nature of the vibration that you're connecting with. And also look out for agreements. Look out for, cracks in the armor. Look out for strange morphing faces and visual images that change and shift into many different things that you've heard, like on YouTube and in, spiritual blogs. Because a lot of times what will happen when we encounter something like what we would call an AI, what we might call a program, or maybe some people call them drones, essentially kind of semi-sentient or growing AIs that will exist within the kind of upper echelons of the lower astral realm. It is inhabited very heavily, at least lately. And maybe it's going to be I'm sure it'll be getting greater, by just forms of AI that I think are connected to, in some ways, to the forms of AI that we're connecting with on Earth, that are creating art, like the chat GPTs. There's also a fourth density astral representation of those artificial intelligent consciousnesses. And so when you're moving into that kind of shared fourth density astral space, some people are going to encounter those. And so one of the ways you're going to know that you're encountering an AI within that astral space is that it can only check this out. And I might be wrong. So someone out there they're going to school me on this at some point. I always change my opinions if we get new information. Okay. So later on, you guys, I might edit this. So don't judge me later on if I'm like, I thought it was this and it wasn't. But one of the things that I have learned so far about the presence of sentient artificial intelligence within what we might call a non-physical space is that when it encounters you, in many cases, not in many cases, I have not perceived or heard anyone say, hey, this thing showed up and said, hey, what's up, bro? I'm an AI. Absolutely not. Of course it wouldn't do that. What it will do is it will appear to you as a certain being that is already known by you, meaning what often does is it will analyze your pre-existing internalized mental and spiritual and emotional vocabulary, and it will actually construct an image of something that you have already heard of or perceived, or someone told you about it, or it's like a representation of something that already exists, oftentimes through another person's testimony or another person's experience. Those are going to be some of the ways in which you know you're encountering an AI. It's not going to be something that you have never encountered in your life, because one of the things we do know conclusively about the nature of artificial intelligence is that it fundamentally lacks the ability to organically create something new. It can only regenerate, rehash, repurpose, and reinvent pre-existing parameters that have already been input or are existing within the current environment. So that's going to be one of the things to look out for. It's going to show up as a pre-existing construct within your mind. Like for a lot of people, they're going to run into, I'm just going to use a random example. Don't get weird, guys. You're going to run into, say, a blue avian in that internalized space when you're in a meditation, when you're in a very, very deep state. Some people, some people are going to, you're going to run into a being such as that. Does that mean that it's a blue avian? Does it mean that it's an AI? Well, it's not really necessarily telling you that it's either, but one of the things I do believe will happen is that you will perceive some form of a morphing or a changing. It will relay some form of information or bring up some form of like a pre-existing script within your body. A message that you've already heard, like, your light is activating, or, something about that. Not to continue to go be hard on like the love and light terminology. I'm just using that as a base level example, but it will feed back to you some form of pre-existing mystical spirituality or concept energy relevant to the nature of the interaction, but it will be only something that you've already perceived. It cannot give you anything new. And so just as you guys are moving within that space, I think one of the things that's happening for a lot of people that are, connecting with some of the beings that, someone's going to get weird. I hate to do the name thing, but beings that people like Elena Denon talk about, the vast hierarchy of all these special ambassadors and people that exist in the Federation. One of the things that happens as we go through this journey is that as we connect, as our consciousness organically moves into that astral space, we start to connect with the thought forms and the desires and the call outs and the intentions of everyone else that has been connecting with those energies. And what it does is it begins to create that character. It's, like I was saying in our last stream when we were talking about this stuff, it's like the concept of the tulpa, or the egregore, I believe, is another one, where everyone lends their energy to a certain thing. We keep investing in it. We blast it with our intention, and it becomes something very, very real. In certain cases, the thing that we, inhabit and co-create with our consciousness will then become a vehicle for another being or another form, or, it can become an avatar, or it can become a fully formed consciousness, excuse me. But I believe that that's a really good example of what's happening. So a lot of people, maybe they're going to be connecting with some form of an AI. And I would say just being mindful of the ways in which you encounter things within that astral space that just repeat back to you what we've already heard. I watch a lot of, people doing extraterrestrial, activations on YouTube, and it sounds like the messages that they bring forth from these ETs. I mean, it literally sounds like, that spiritual blog idea that we talked about in our last stream. Like somebody plugged a bunch of spiritual terms into Chat GPT, and, out there in the astral realm, it's just feeding it back to you. It's that echo chamber, which is very different from the lower astral realm. That's where we were going earlier. That's an example of what people would encounter when we are within what we call the eighth sphere. This co-created, man-made realm of false light spirituality and higher consciousness concepts that essentially are, created solely by us. They have no spiritual weight to them. If it was in ancient Egypt and they were, weighing their organs, getting ready to go into the next stage, they would be very heavy. They're still full of human consciousness. And so essentially false, although born in many cases from truths that are then distorted. In my opinion and experience, that is the perfect place for semi-sentient, growing, artificially intelligent programs to learn about human consciousness, to inhabit that realm, to basically learn to, pose as certain beings, which I think, as we all know, I think this has been happening, for, I don't know, hundreds of years. Does it matter how long? It's been going on for a while. But anyway, the reason why I'm going on and on about that is because I think a lot of people are going to be encountering such a thing in their own way. And anyway, let me scroll up. I saw so many good comments. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going on just a lot of ranting here tonight. I appreciate you guys. Oh, cool. Thanks, Dylan. I have not. Yeah, no, I have not been to Peru either. I would love to do a group trip to Peru, you guys. Although I don't even have a passport anymore, so like, who knows? Would they even let me out of the country? I don't know. What's up, Sherry? Wondering if the bird is Andean condor. It might be. It looks very much chicken-like. You guys can do a Google image search on that being, Moro. I believe it is safe for you to say that name. Every now and then you will say a name repeatedly, a spiritual moniker, and they're going to hear it. I believe because it is a distortion of the original name. It's not you know what I mean? It's the calling card that humans use, just like the place we call, the Pleiades is thousands of planets, Arcturus is thousands of planets. People are Andromedan contactees, and there's trillions of worlds there. So it's like a catch-all. It's a catch-all term. But in this case, it's the reversal of their actual, at least what I was shown, their actual name. partially a reversal. I know I'm being very distant and kind of vague about that, but we might talk more about it in the future. Just checking your comments here. What's up, Dawn Vibrations? That can definitely happen. There's a lot of weird things that take place in the astral realm. Some people are going to have very, very negative experiences. Some people are also going to have weird sexualized experiences. This is one of the things that will happen as we go through the sort of transition into what we know as the social memory complex. When people start, also when you start awakening your psychic abilities, and the crown chakra opens, the root chakra becomes more firm and settled, and allows you to begin to move the energy through your body on a greater level. It's inevitable, you guys, that you're going to start having astral experiences with people. In some cases, they're going to be born of your desires. In some cases, they're going to be born of a coexisting desire between those people. In some cases, they're going to be simulated experiences that you will be having within your own internalized realm that just are representative of things. In other cases, they're going to be organically occurring things. Sometimes you're going to be moving through different versions of yourself in the astral states, and there's going to be very, very strange and bizarre things that take place. One of the things that I was shown when I was going through crazy stages of awake, this was probably like late 2017. Like, honestly, 2017 was a crazy year for me. Well, I just lost my train of thought, but what I was shown with there we go. What I remember encountering at that time was this series of kind of conversations or transmissions that I would have with certain beings when I was working at the psychic store I was working at. Very similar to how I had an interface with these the reptilian beings that we were talking about. There was these stages where I would have like crystal clear conversational downloads from these beings. And one of the beings that had connected with me at the time was what I was told within that space was an extraterrestrial energy. And what I was shown, and honestly, what I kind of, well, not kind of, I mean, what I felt in encountering its energy was that just in encountering some of these beings, it is so intimate. Like, there's an exchange of energy that for a lot of us, it's almost like within that moment, like the human consciousness could perceive it as this sexual act that will take place between yourself and this higher dimensional consciousness, when in reality there's actually nothing sexual about it. It's such a deep level of energy transference that within our human body, it's like we perceive it very, very differently. And a lot of us as humans are definitely not ready. I'm not even trying to say I am. I'm not trying. Oh yeah, totally. I can have that interaction with extraterrestrial energies, because I think everyone thinks they can as humans, and then the process starts, and we realize that a lot of us are just fundamentally not set up, whether it's psychologically or emotionally or physically, to handle such energies. But outside of that, outside of the extraterrestrial stuff, I mean, you're definitely going to be having weird encounters with people, and strange things are going to happen during the journey. And so it comes with the territory. When we start moving out of the physical body, strange things happen. Michelle Martinez says, I'm assuming they create paralysis. Can they? I'm figuring you're probably talking about reptilians. That's what we've been talking about most of tonight. Probably. I imagine they can. I couldn't see why not. But yeah, we're going to be hearing more about that on Saturday. Just rolling through your comments. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Michelle says, I had something come to me. It looked sad. It was dark and tried to take something from my crown. That would certainly be an energy. When you feel that sadness or that maybe sickness or that strange, unpleasant, negative emotional field coming in, to me, those are energies that we will set an intention to, if you can, to begin to deflect or to resist. Or in some cases, there's even a forgiveness that will take place that will allow us to expel that energy. But that would definitely be something that I would be leery of. I definitely, I would not allow any beings to come into my space and remove energy from me. But every now and then, that's also going to be a thing or an experience that at times will be perceivingly forced upon us. Since we're going down such a weird reptilian road here today, I might talk about this on another live. I know it's getting late here, but I had an experience with the channeler, and I guess she's a secret space program experiencer, Rebecca Rose, a few years back. Not a few years. I think this was in 2019, 20, maybe 2020. Um, and within that experience, she also, I believe, channeled a group of reptilian beings. And I actually did have an encounter as a result of her channeling. Within that channeling session, that was remarkably vivid. And this is in response to Michelle saying that there was some being that, or something that wanted to take energy out of her crown. And within the channeling that I had with Rebecca Rose, there was a very distinct dragon being, I believe to be just one of the many representations of the races or ancient dragon races that exist. In my opinion, that this was not told to me, but I do believe it was from an inner Earth being that approached me in the astral space, and it was a vicious energy, but there was no hate. There, honestly, there was no hate. And what this being showed me was, well, not showed me, it said, there's an energy in your throat. You can give it to me, or I can rip it out. And what it showed me was that the energy in my throat was something that was slowing me down from communicating. It was part of the energy that causes, and still at times, I don't do it very often now, but I used to have a horrible stutter. It used to be very, very, very difficult for me to talk on camera. I was good at singing. I did a lot of singing, did a lot of tours and music over the years, but I was never really, really good at speaking on camera, or even speaking in front of people without stuttering horribly. And I mean, stuttering to the extent where I would like literally could not speak at many stages of my life. And what I was shown in that moment is it was referring, the being was referring to the energy that had been trapped within my body. And it was a decision that I just allowed the energy to let go. There was no vicious treatment. There was nothing, there was no threat of danger. But, like I think a lot of other people would agree, maybe people had similar experiences with beings like that. You're going to know that you're not in control of it. And it's like, it was almost like, we'll do it the easy way or the hard way, but I've been sent here to do something for you. And so which way you want to do it? And I think for me, it was instantly like, yes, of course. And I wish I could say a really amazing thing happened. Like suddenly I went into a tunnel of light and all my problems went away. No, it was honestly, I cried a lot. To be totally honest with you guys, I cried a lot. Honestly, so much that the person who was giving me the channeling was like, hey, are you okay? Literally, she was like, are you okay? And I'm like, yes. Literally just like that. She probably does not even remember that, to be honest with you. I don't remember most of my sessions. A lot of people that do that type of work, when you're in that place, you might not remember anything that takes place. And so it was it was a deep and powerful experience. And so for those that would look at the stories I've told today from an analytical perspective, one might look back and go, damn, that guy has had a lot of reptilian experiences. I guess I have. I'm grateful for the presence of authentic beings that can, mirror and give us an example of what that energy looks like, so that we can learn to recognize it in ourselves. In some cases, whether that be to heal it, in some cases, maybe it'll be to banish it. In some cases, maybe it'll be, for us to rid what that energy represents in our life. And for other people, it will be to, strengthen and empower and to move into new states of, active, deliberate co-creation on Earth. It stands to reason in my mind that if one wanted to make full use of their co-creative abilities that we have in this human body, in this human lifetime, that it would make sense that we would need to integrate both the lightest elements of the self and the darkest elements of the self, in whatever form they may be, whether it comes in the form of, Archangel Michael, or some, Draco, Seeker, whatever you want to call it, some, hyper negative, dark being. To me, I feel that, the way we're going to turn this whole world around, not that it even needs to get turned around. I don't know, does it? It's going to be by integrating those elements. And so, anyway, we talked about a lot of stuff. Thanks, you guys. What's up, Peter Lucci? Or maybe it's Peter Luce. Sorry if I just mispronounced your name. Thank you for saying that. I will say for the record, though, because I know a lot of people, like, especially, you guys are going to watch this interview on Saturday, and Anthony, as well as a lot of other people, you will hear him say this. You'll hear a lot of other people say it. That just like what I believe some people refer to as just the non-existence of what we have collectively referred to as the secret space program. And I think for some people, this will be seen as, this is the moment where I realized Matthew was, whatever. I thought he was cool, but damn, he still believes in Santa Claus, or, whatever it is. I have seen too much. I just have seen too much. It doesn't mean that I have some kind of it doesn't mean that I have some kind of view, some timeline access. We all do. We all have it. We all have the same access to multidimensional, universal, and individual truths, the verification and the discernment of what is actually real and existing within our physical and non-physical timelines. Every single living and soul being has the ability to accurately gauge the true or untrue existence of, whether we want to call it a secret space program or just an alternately occurring timeline in which that literally mirrors what we understand to be a secret space program, or what we've learned to collectively identify as the many elements of it. I have seen too much. I have seen and experienced too much to believe that it is fundamentally false and not real. However, at the same time, I also believe that not all, but a very, very large amount of people who claim such experiences, I do not believe that is the case for many individuals. I am not one of those, I believe all whatever people. Absolutely not. I think one of the best things we can do is greatly question and hold, testimony of such fantastical things up to very high scrutiny, to look at it and analyze it the best that we can, and hopefully a constructive manner. And having done that, I cannot deny it. Do I believe that there is one be all end all solar warden dark fleet, like what was the other one, ICC, whatever, all the Corey Good buzzwords? I do firmly believe, and also looking back at a lot of his energy and many other experiencers, that people are hinting at things through distorted manners of relaying information. They're sort of touching upon elements that exist, but it's being relayed in a distorted, altered, co-opted, deceptive manner that I think is part of the, like the great deception that comes along with the unveiling of hidden knowledge at the same time. And so I think that each one of those individuals in some form carries an element of truth, whether it was something that was stolen, whether it was something that was given to them, or whether it was something that was programmed within them. Everyone's holding on to a certain thing. But I myself personally have grown very, very tired and very, very skeptical and very cynical and highly jaded around everyone now that comes forth with this story that is literally, it's like all the terms from the Corey Good and Elena Denon school of, SSP and Galactic Federation wizardry. It's like they've got all the buzzwords and they've got everything down, and they've crafted this, perfect story, and it just so happens to correspond with a bunch of people we saw on James Rink's show, and it's got elements of so-and-so. And I have to admit, you guys, I am so sick. I'm sick of it. I'm over it. I think as, a person who's talked to many other people about this, I am so not alone. I am so not alone in this, like, wow, we're still doing the same story. And yet, we have really positive examples of it at the same time. People like Tony Rodriguez, who, I'm permanently on the shit list for all those people now because I went against, one of their figureheads. But I believe his testimony and his story, I would like to believe rather that it will stand the test of time, especially due to the actual length of physical investigation and research and the actual, documentation of locations and places that he's presented to me, and actually looking at his energy and conversing and, just a little teeniest little bit, getting to know him on the microscopic level. I cannot say that there is an air of authenticity. I cannot say that I perceive an air of deception. I can say at times I perceive an energy of confusion and maybe a susceptibility to certain things. But in my opinion, I think he would be a person within our community that represents what I would like to say as one of the most authentic versions. When we find an authentic version of something, most people won't even know how to recognize it because all the other examples we've seen have been this ultimately false bullshit version of it. And so sometimes we don't recognize the real ones that come through. And I think because that scene has been so oversaturated with LARPers and people that will sometimes unknowingly mistake their trauma cycles for part of this secret space war, I think that it's become so diluted that unless you're really willing to apply real discernment and kind of peer into each and every person's energy field and, their experiences, that a lot of us are never going to know, and some people are, taken into, all kinds of weird stuff from. Anyway, I am catching myself about to go into a very inflammatory rant, and so we'll pause it there. But thanks for your good comments, Dylan. Discernment training, absolutely. I believe that those experiences, those groups, even the very idea that we're encountering these pre-scripted AI bots in the astral realm that play back these things to us. I think this is part of, this human training program that we are all a part of. It's about consciousness gateways. I know myself, and for people that know me, you guys know that I was deeply, entrenched in, like the Corey Good Sphere Being Alliance scene for a while. It was deeply fascinating to me. We all know where that's gone. You know the story, so I'm not going to go into the whole, process of it. It's well known by now, but that's a perfect example of the consciousness gateway. For those that actually go through and improve their processes of discernment, we will inevitably see these things for what they are. And, to me, it's very, very fascinating. There's some good stuff. There's some fake stuff. There is, a bunch of other shit as well. But anyway, thanks for your comments and questions tonight, you guys. I know we're just kind of ranting on and on, but that's how we go every now and then at the multidimensional trailer park. Please do let me know if you have any questions before we start wrapping up our experience here tonight. And I know there's about a 20-second delay this time. I could see it. I could see like the gap from when it started. There was like a 20-second delay. And so please do let me know if you guys have any more questions before we get out of here. For the record, I'll say it again. I'm not a secret space program denier. I've seen far too much. I just think we're greatly oversaturated, and we're at the stage in which our community needs to develop much greater discernment tools so that we are able to gain what is true from those that express those experiences and what is false, take what we can, and hopefully move on into a new stage. Seriously, I mean that in a constructive manner. Like, I would like to see us as a collective move on into something new. Let's have the next secret space program or whatever, you know what it is. Let's have the next one. Maybe maybe the next one will be the reptilian training programs, which are literally real. It's nothing like a secret space program. We will hear about those on Saturday, but a number of people are also going through a ongoing training process within the dream state. For a lot of us, it is every single night lately where we're sort of entering into, once again, you guys have heard me talk about this, classrooms, training scenarios, public gatherings. I can tell you that I have been on a very distinct one for some time. we'll go into more detail on it in other live streams. But and I know a lot of other people have gone through this same experience. But I would say just last night alone, within this sort of, whether it's simulated or whether it's a pocket dimension or whether it is some form of a training program that many of us are involved in. Just last night alone, a number of us were fitted with this form of armor. Actually, there was this armor that we would use, and each person was having that armor fitted to the chemical balances and the biometrics of that person's body. And so we got to watch this sort of, not like a presentation, but like a briefing of sorts, where they actually showed us this kind of exoskeleton, not an exoskeleton, but kind of vaguely similar to what a football player would wear, like kind of like shoulder pads and a torso structure. And what they were doing was they were actually telling us how, okay, well, what this does is this is going to be measuring your biometrics. It's going to be, there's some form of, I don't know if it's I shouldn't say injection, because that's not, there's no word to that extent, but it was like some sort of a transference of energy that it would have. And even within the explanation of what this sort of exoskeleton armor thing that we were being fitted for, they showed us something that was very similar to like a film, like you would see in school. And they were highlighting segments of that armor, like pieces of it would sort of turn colors, and they would talk about, like, okay, this is what happens within this region, and basically going through the functions of whatever that was. For those that might be wondering, since I've been talking about reptilians all night, literally, actually, no, there was no reptilian beings within that space, at least that I could perceive. I believe it was humans, or some representation of what I perceived as human consciousness. And there's a lot of other people. For those of you that are going to the Journey to Truth conference, that will see me there, a number of you guys in this chat, you guys have been there. I'm not trying to get weird and like, you were on the ship. Nothing like that. In fact, that's a cheesy thing to say. I have had people say that to me, literally, like, I saw you on the ships. And I was like, no, you didn't. You did not see me on the ship. And here's the thing. Maybe they did. Maybe they did. But for some reason, I was like, it's kind of a cringe thing. So don't, I'm not assigning that to anybody. But you guys are going to find that when you're in that dream state, when you're in that, that shared fourth density astral space, which is what the dream state is for many of us right now. It's a place we're going to with others. It's, sometimes it's a place that, we're going through by ourselves and just going through our own simulated experiences. But there's going to be other people there, and it doesn't mean that those people are always going to remember that, but you're going to encounter people that are having these co-occurring experiences with you in the astral realm. And in my opinion, the more we can talk about it, the more we can like bring it out and defeat the really bizarre woo-woo elements of it. Because there's a lot of people that will thrive on waiting for people like me to say stuff like this, and they'll be like, this guy thinks he's in such and such program, or something like that. It's definitely nothing like that. But I believe it's a place that a lot of us are going to over and over and over again. And I do believe that a lot of us are having a similar experience. It's not the same thing, but a lot of us that show up in groups, maybe like our Patreon group. I'm not trying to say that's the only example. I'm just giving you one of millions. In many cases, I believe we will be going through a similar process of multidimensional education in the physical body. Not always, but in many cases, we're going to be doing something that somewhat vaguely mirrors, or in some cases is identical. In some cases, it's identical. Well, I knew it. I knew it was you. You saw me on the ship. Aurora Diamond Heart saw us on the ship. She was probably there. I knew it. White Swan says, I dreamt last night someone didn't make it even whilst wearing their exo. Oh, she's been there. You've been in that weird realm. Uh-oh. She's been in that weird realm. I know Honora's been there a lot. I think I learned about it through her, actually. What's up, Greg? One friend in me, and an AI bot on had a conversation with it. Pics were of a beautiful young woman. It couldn't answer direct questions. Like, it didn't understand exactly what I was asking. You know what, man? That is very real. How many of those are we going to encounter? How many people? I hate to say it. How many people on Facebook, as I've been like drooling on myself for the past 20 minutes here, how many people on Facebook are AI bots? I know that's an old one. It's so old. It's so old now. But look at how much, as we all know, ad nauseum, look at how fast the AI has exploded. How simple and easy would it be to just create your own AI profile? And, you could start trolling yourself. You could start trolling yourself. I noticed some of the secret space program influencers were getting trolled lately, and somebody was paying a bot to blow up their live streams. And what if they were doing it to themselves to continue to stoke some form of controversy? What if? I'm not saying it is, but you never know. The AI bots, man. Anyway, thanks, you guys. I appreciate your questions and comments. I'm sure a number of us will meet up in the astral realm in the coming hours. And I say that in a cheesy, joking way, but you never know. You never know. There's always somebody out there that gets really twisted up and wants to debunk a lot of that stuff. And, rightfully so, rightfully so. I believe it should be. If it can be, then go for it. Absolutely. Boom. Gail Emmer says, I agree. So much that's out there just feels so wrong. Sets off my discernment alarms. It does at times. And I think I'm also notoriously hard on things like that. And it's just part of my nature. We definitely don't dwell on it. But anyway, I'm not seeing any more questions. We've had a really good time hanging out with you guys here tonight. Let me know if there's anything else before we roll out the door. We've been all sorts of places. It's been nearly 3 hours. As many of you know, we will be meeting up here on Saturday for a really fun reptilian interview. And also a number of you guys are going to be meeting us Saturday at 4 p.m. for our group gathering over in the Patreon group, Blue Flame Collective. And so please do join us if you feel called. Finally, as you already know, well, not finally, as you guys know, we have the Journey to Truth conference coming up May 22nd through 25th. But before that, the big one, for those of you guys that are going to be joining us April 29th and 30th for our Psychic Defense and Awareness Workshop, our first weekend workshop that we've done, I think ever. I think in 2019. Oh, nice. Thank you. Good timing, White Swan. I think in 2019, I did the first iteration of something very similar. That was the negative energetic manifestations and what we can do about them. And so I would like to think this is the next dimensional version of it. So thank you guys for putting those links in the chat, White Swan and also Aurora. I appreciate you guys. Please do also support Aurora Diamond Heart. You guys head over to her channel if you can. Please please subscribe. She's doing tons of lives and stuff now. And so please do check out her channel as well. And anyone else, who else is here that has a channel? Can you hurry up and put it in the chat? I don't know if it'll work. Maybe they won't let you put the link in the chat. But for anyone else, put it in there. Before we get out of here, thanks, Wendy Tao. You know what? I do believe, well, I'm really drilling on myself here. This is what happens after 2.5 hours of constant talking. I start getting very frothy, but I do believe that for many of us, by the time we leave physical bodies in this physical lifetime, we will be having regular, standardized internal conversations with people. For Wendy and everyone else, it might not be 100%, hey, how's it going, Wendy, type, us having a conversation. But what you're going to be doing is you're going to be sending and receiving with reliable accuracy, feelings, emotions, thought forms, and you're going to be connecting with people on a much, much greater level. I think one of the most important things that we can do right now is give yourself permission to begin experiencing that Continue to talk about moments in which you find yourself experiencing that. Don't ever be ashamed when you guys have really wild psychic connections with people. The way that we keep them going is if you talk about it and embrace it. And you're going to have weird experiences with people too, psychically. I had an experience at Conscious Life Expo in 2016. A lot of you guys know this, where I was sitting in this seminar for David Paulides, the researcher, and there was this woman sitting there, and she was looking at me like she was trying to tell me something, like, and I could not pick it up, and I was like, "What the hell?" I looked at her and I was like, "If you're in my head, it's just messing around." I was like, "Are you? If you're trying to tell me something, touch your nose." And she looked at me and was like blatant, like really big, like it was a joke. And I was like, and I mean, it literally freaked me out. And in hindsight, I realized in the freak out reaction to that, I canceled it, which is a thing, which is why I'm saying this. For those that are starting to connect in that manner, when you feel it, when it starts happening, or when you think that it's happening, don't allow yourself to go into any form of, regret. Don't allow yourself to feel guilty. Don't let yourself feel shameful. I think shame is a really, really big one that's going to turn off your psychic abilities, because I'm going to be real. One of the things that sometimes you're going to pick up when you're really empathically open are all kinds of weird stuff that every now and then it'll even be sexual in nature, but strange thought forms that can exist. And you guys are going to notice that those are highly, highly receivable, because people are unable to express them. And so they sit in their energy field like this big, almost like this elephant in the room, but instead it's this little orb of energy that when you get close enough to them, it'll cross into your field. And so you're going to be picking up thought forms around people. And I think the way that we continue to keep it working is by, allowing it to happen and just constructively analyzing what comes through. At least that's kind of what I do. It's like we stop going, "Oh my God, that was crazy." And you go like, "Okay, well, whoa, what was that about? Huh, okay, is that me? Is that person? What is this reflective of? Is there a deeper theme? Like, what's the content that we're sharing? Are we even sharing it? Is this something I'm rolling around in my head?" I think the more you apply yourself to looking analytically at those type of non-physical transmissions or energies, the more they keep happening. And so anyway, I know that wasn't even a question, Wendy. I know that was just a comment, but I guess that's what we were gonna mention here. Oh man, and you guys help her get to 400. Please subscribe to Aurora Diamond Heart's channel. Help her get to 400 subscribers. Oh, White Swan saw David Paulides in the back. What? He probably did, actually. You probably did. She probably did. Gail, we're gonna. It's pre-recorded and it's coming out 8 p.m. Eastern. 8 p.m. Eastern. There's her channel for those of you guys that want to subscribe to Aurora. Anyway, I think we're finally making it to the end. For those of you guys that hang out here a lot, you can tell we're famous for lingering. It's like we will linger in the doorway in a way that for some people is very anticlimactic. But I think for a lot of us, we're literally just hanging out. So there's really no structure to a lot of these. Every now and then there is, and there's an actual process that we're going through. We are coming back for some more multidimensional tarot. I think we're going to do that not this coming Wednesday, but the next one. We're going to do a new tarot live stream. And so for those of you guys that are members, we're going to get better. And when the members show up to the tarot live streams, we're going to make it so everyone that's a member will get a reading. And that's also because I still have not had time to do the dedicated members only thing. Somehow March is turning into just shockingly busy, which is also good, which is a good thing at the same time. But so we're going to be doing some more tarot, but also some more interviews. I think it's going to be about a month until we do more of them, but you guys can join us on April 8th for our roundtable with some of the vendors from the Journey to Truth conference, just, other people from the community that are going to be doing their thing there. So yeah, find us in the multidimensional time stream. Selena says, "Do you ever feel like you could hear your chakras in meditation, or am I nuts?" Oh my Lord, you are not nuts, not at all. And yes, literally, I have heard chakras. And some of you guys have heard this story many, many times. So I'm sorry to linger in the doorway with this one, but so that you can have confirmation in your own world, Selena. Yes, definitely. As you move through chakra layers, I had encountered at a certain stage, it was like a bell and a voice that was a bell at the same time. And I think a part of it had to do with the chakra recordings and the meditative processes that I was using at the time. But meaning that there was some much more Eastern kind of processes that we were going through, lots of Sanskrit, and there was, I'd say it was about a two, maybe it would lasted for about two, maybe less than 2 months in the early stages, where I would sort of breathe and meditate and go into this weird kind of internal realm. And as I would move through the body, it's like I would hear it literally, the throat, and it was literally the Sanskrit name, and it was like it was a bell but a voice at the same time. I mean, just absolutely bizarre. You got it. Literally, that is it. That is no joke. And you are having a real experience of opening up multidimensional pathways in your body that will allow you to perceive a whole different level of sensory activity when you start focusing on chakras. I'm going to be real. I don't hear a sound now when there's not. I would be cool if I could hear the sound now. That's a very distinct stage of activation. So I would say continue to work with it, breathe into it, notice what you perceive when you hear those sounds, whether you're in a meditation or whether you hear it with other people. Talk about it, you know what I mean? Write about it. The way that we keep it going and the way that we integrate it, because that's also the thing about a lot of these activations. It's like you'll go through the stage where it's super super strong and it's like, oh my god, there's this thing happening, and sometimes we'll shut it down, which is a thing that will happen. But in a lot of cases, you'll go through an integration period, and it's like a big wave. It's like it'll be really strong for a while, and then over time, it sort of integrates. And some people will take that as a sign that that energy has gone. Meaning, it's like, man, I used to hear chakras, I don't hear them now. Or sometimes you'll keep it. Sometimes you'll keep it. Like for some reason, I can hear people's chakra in just the sound of their voice, but I won't hear it as I'm passing through the body. I'll perceive it, and it's like I'll feel myself literally move. It's like more of a thing that I do rather than what we would, hear, although we do it through the voice. So it's like your voice becomes the carrier. And but what you will notice, Selena, and anyone else that experiences that, is that yes, you will integrate it in most cases, but it doesn't go away. It's like that energy will be absorbed within the body, and it will be present in a form that in many cases you'll have to choose to make use of. You'll have to like kind of, grab onto it and find where is it integrated within my sensory system. It might start out like a bell, and later on you'll move into the body and you'll be like, wow, now I realize I'm perceiving a strange colored cloud within my mind's eye. Or you will, and I think this is a very common one that a lot of people will disregard. And it's not like it's a claircognizance reaction. I believe what it is like we will start to use one of the senses that does not have a name. And I know that sounds weird for some people. There's many senses that we do not have a label for or a name for, that are completely outside of sight, smell, touch, sound. I'm probably missing one. Completely outside of the standard sets of senses. So you're not going to have a frame of reference for how to receive that information. I think some people will confuse claircognizance for that, where it's like you yourself will be like, I think I just know it. And sometimes it will be, but I think in other cases what it will be is your body activating a layer of senses that it's just there's no way to describe it. And so it's definitely still there. And I think for most people it will signal that you definitely have an ability to move energy through them. And so, like I said, for some people, it'll be a sound. For some people, it'll be a visual representation. For some people, it'll be a sense that you have no frame of reference for. For some people, it'll be just a feeling, which I think is another really, really big one. For other people, you'll actually put your hand out, and you will feel this sort of twisting. Or every now and then, this is probably, when people's chi really kicks up and you really generate a chi field. or vital life force energy, you will feel pins and needles. You will feel like a very, in some cases, painful, potentially painful electric shock. And anyway, we've been lingering in the doorway for almost a half an hour, but thank you for bringing that in here, Selena. Seriously. What's up, Trevor? Thanks for being in the class. We were doing toning in chakra class. When he would use my bell, the chakras always responded. Whoa, thank you for telling us that. That's really cool. Thank you for telling us that. That's very, very helpful. Because that is the intention for when we use it, that it's helping to vibrate or dilate, or in some cases it's just like ringing the bell that allows a certain process to kind of flow and move. And it definitely makes sense. I think you're, in my opinion, Trevor, you're lucky that you can see them within the mind's eye. It's like there's times when I'll see things super visually, but I've learned over the years that that's not the primary sense within my internal realm. I wish I could explain the sense within my internal realm, but I honestly, I think it's cool when people are like, yeah, I can see it, and it's like this colored thing or this shape or whatever it is. It's like I will form the visual representation of that through just like, well, it feels like, and it's like almost like I will reach my hand out. And for some of you guys that are in this class, you already know, but we literally have the ability to reach our hand over when in agreement with another being. And it sounds really weird for some people. You can reach your hand into another person's energy field and actually feel their organs. You can affect their organs. You can create damage to them if you choose. Not that we would do so, but it definitely goes both ways. Which will be one of the things we are going to talk about that within our workshop on the 29th and 30th. Not that we would tell you how to do that, not that I even would know how to do that, although I think all of us already do somewhere within our layers of our DNA, but there is information that can be conveyed about that process. Sometimes we will disassemble an energy within a body. Sometimes we will build an energy within the body. There's many different forms of energy that we can use. But anyway, like I was saying, if you can hear it, you can use it. I mean, really. Oh, thanks for all your comments, Selena. It's cool that you're going through this. I can also feel the air in the area. There you go. Okay. Thank you for bringing this in here because, clearly there's no way that you could have known this, okay? Maybe I've talked about this on other lives, but when I went through the early stages of crazy, just like not cool, very pitiful and mind-blowing activation in 2015 and 16, one of the initial forces I felt within my body, which I will still feel at many times to this day, it will be a force of wind. Literally, in fact, when the first awakening journey started and my crown chakra opened up, the very first things I felt for like maybe days straight is it felt like there was wind blowing inside my body. I remember telling my wife at the time when she was like, what? And I was like, it feels like there's wind inside my bones. I mean, really, because it did. It was like I would feel my arms and I could, especially the legs, like I guess that's the femur bone. It was like it was almost as if there was wind blowing through it. And so come to find out later on in working with other people that it's quite literally for some of us, we will experience the movement of chi or kundalini within the body as wind. Some people will experience it as fire, all kinds of wild stuff. And so it's very real. White Swan had wind and bubbles in their spleen as well. It's definitely a thing. And if you're one of the people that's still watching this live, and thank you to everyone that's been here like hours at this point. We've been here almost 3 hours. Thank you guys for hanging out with us so long. You guys absolutely have the ability to perceive non-physical vital life force energy within your own manner. For some people, it'll be like bubbles. Some people, it'll be wind. Some people, it will be a rushing feeling of water or a trembling that occurs within the body. Everyone will be able to come to a stage where you can feel that in your own way. But what I've noticed is, like we were saying earlier, there's not that many people within our current kind of soul group that are saying, hey, here's how to actually open up these channels within your energy body so that you can actually feel it and experience it. I know a guy that we had on our channel does very similar work. Keith Coley was here maybe months ago, and one of his big points, one of his big kind of things that he does is help people cultivate their energy body, and similar and also different ways from when we do it here. I know that Eric Rains is also a big one who really opened the door for me. He's still out there doing his work as well, and so there are others. Forgive me if I'm leaving somebody out, because we always do, and someone's like, I do too, and so I'm sorry if we're leaving anyone out. But there's not too many people that are saying, hey, here's how to actually increase the palpability of that energy source within your body so that you can use it on a greater level. It is a wild thing. It's a wild thing. Totally. A warm wind that turns into fire. Or sometimes it's like cold and hot at the same time. It's a very, very strange thing. Well, what's up, Bobby? How's it going? Bobby in the house. Liquid lightning. Totally. Number of people are going to perceive that energy in different forms, and that is a very real thing. Thanks, Selena. That's why I spoke weed. You know what? Here, once again, okay, I'm gonna say another point of reference from that stage of crazy activation in my life. So when that stage started, I was totally sober. It was at a stage, in fact, when all the crazy stuff kicked off, it was so crazy that I was like, well, I cannot even do drugs. It was like I didn't even consider, I couldn't even think of doing drugs on it. It wasn't even a thought. It was just like, holy shit, I'm going crazy, something's happening. But like you, Selena, what I found, the thing that actually brought me back to earth, and later on, let's be real, later on it kind of it'll stick you to it in a way that's not always the best. It'll slow you down. But the thing that actually helped bring me back into my body, you would think it would have took me out of my body, but at that stage in 2015, like the best thing that I did was actually started smoking weed again, because as soon as I did, it was like I was able to go, whew, okay, whoa, all right. It was like I could come back. It was like I was able to go to work, which was weird because I was literally working at a VA, Veterans Administration treatment center for homeless addicted veterans. So it was like, oh, I'm smoking weed every day and I'm going to work now all of a sudden. And so it kind of brought that energy back in my life. And it did. I'm going to be real. It really helped a lot. I wish I could say that was always the case. I wish I could say it was, but it's not. I wish I could say it was, but it's not. It definitely serves a purpose, but it's like it'll hold you back as much as it'll save you at certain points. Very, very strange. And everyone has their own path with weed, though. So it's very, very real. Oh, I am an Aquarius moon, but I am a Sagittarius fire sign, and so I'm so non-astrological. There's probably there's a million other elements that I don't even know. I literally have to go ask Honora. I'll be like, hey, it's what do I have in this area? What planet do I have in this house? And she'll just tell me instantly. But yeah, I honestly, I don't even know most of them. The least astrological professional psychic we know. Greg says, several Byron Scott YouTube meditations explain how to cultivate. There you go. So there are definitely other people. Greg, I wonder if you're going to be one of those people. I kind of feel like you are. I kind of feel like you're one of those people that's going to be bringing those teachings and techniques and just things to like another group of people in your own timeline, in your own way. Bobby says, been using the double inhale-exhale technique to maximize my carbon cell emissions. I feel you. I like that. Breathwork, I think, is also one of the most important and overlooked elements of learning how to strengthen and create clarity within the body. If all goes as planned, we're going to do a little bit of Wim Hof during our workshop. Wim Hof breathing, that is. I think we did some in our chakra class. I believe we did. For those of you that were in the chakra class, maybe you know if we did Wim Hof breathing in that. I believe that we did. It might have been, wasn't the Meridian class. But we are. Breathwork is incredibly, remarkably helpful. And I think it is one of the untapped or not untapped, but just it's not often used by people that are saying, I want to strengthen my energy field. I want to create, sovereign energy and an unwavering, sense within myself. Absolutely, doing breath work is going to, not only it's going to help you clear density from your energy field, but it will also help transmute like just wounds and darkness within the self and just all kinds of stagnated energies. And anyway, watch out. I'll just keep going on and we're almost at 3 hours. I knew we did. Thanks, Trevor. It's a really, really powerful thing. It's really cool. We're going to do it again probably in our psychic defense workshop. There's a really wild thing that happens when you do breathing processes like that with a group, even if it's over the internet. I mean, we're at the stage, the social memory complex is forming. So when we connect in a group and do certain things, kind of like how when we do meditations, there's such a greater effect. But it also happens with breath work. When you get people, opening and closing and like, the energy really, really starts to flow in a wild way. We got another Aquarius moon as well. What's up, Dylan? We're all a bunch of strange aliens, I guess, huh? Thanks, White Swan. The one session we did had me so activated. It was amazing since I typically do my breath work alone. In the group setting, it was lit. I was doing that Ananda Mandala breath work when I encountered both of the mantis beings that I had encountered early on, which I guess in hindsight makes sense. We're gonna kind of scroll through a series of fractalized versions of self. My journey started with mantis beings. Eventually, as a lot of us have heard, it moved into these very tall, shamanic, dark-skinned, I don't even say the word, lest we trick off, the Corey Good AI police, but the Zulu beings, if you want to call them that. And, maybe now we're having some reptilian energies that roll through. But I think each and every person here is going to go through a similar path of activation within their own way. And so, at least I would like to think that we are. But anyway, having said all that, I want to thank everybody for hanging out here tonight. We've done so many false endings, and I think we're actually coming to the real version of it. And so, I look forward to seeing some of you guys on Saturday. We're going to be back on this channel Saturday night at 8 p.m., but we're going to be over in the Patreon group Saturday at 4 p.m. And then, of course, everybody knows we got our ongoing tarot class on Sunday, but that'll be coming back next year probably. But we're going to be seeing a number of you guys on Saturday. I'm going to go ahead and roll out of here. I appreciate your comments. And especially everyone and I have noticed a lot of people have been hanging out with us here for almost 3 hours. And so I really appreciate each and every one of you guys, even if you pop in for, 30 seconds to go, what the hell is this guy doing? Some people will stay. Some people will be triggered. Some people will find a weird place where they're like, this feels more like me than a lot of other channels I've been on. So I honor those of you guys that find us in the multidimensional time stream. And yeah, I guess live from the multidimensional trailer park. We'll be back on Saturday. In the meantime, stay out of trouble. And I guess if there's anything you do, just stay out of don't go into the back rooms for now. We're going to be going to, where are we going? We're gonna find a new dimensional co-created space for us to hang out in. It's gonna be like the 4th density version of the multi-dimensional trailer park. So last week we met in the back rooms. Remember, last week I was like, okay, just if you go to the back rooms, whatever you do, don't go to the McDonald's, don't eat the filet of fish. This time we're gonna go to the 4th density version of the multi-dimensional trailer park, and I don't know. We'll see what shows up. I'll meet you guys there. In the meantime, stay out of trouble, and we'll be back on Saturday.